relationships and what they call polyamorous families. How's that for an oxymoron? Now, I don't think there's going to be a mad dash to polyamorous situations in most of the country. I think what you're seeing here is the deliberate destabilization of marriage itself. This is part of a bigger strategy of those on the left who want to subvert a biblical view of marriage as central to our own civilizational project. They want to destroy any commitment to marriage as the union of a man and a woman. They want to destabilize the family. They want to do all of this, period. What starts in Portland, it doesn't stay in Portland.
Making the switch to a new communications and IT company may seem like a big ordeal, but if you're not getting the reliable support, consistent internet, and secure solutions your company needs, meet Access One, your local Chicagoland IT experts. Access One has been powering Chicago businesses with secure, reliable IT solutions for over 30 years from our headquarters right here in the West Loop. Whether it's VoIP phones, dedicated internet, managed cybersecurity, cloud backups, or 24/7 support, Access One is here for you. Serving thousands of companies from Naperville to the North Shore, Access One is Chicago-owned and Chicago-run, a trusted IT partner for law firms, clinics, tech startups to manufacturers. We'll make the switch easier than you think. Let's talk. Call 800-804-8333 or visit accessoneInc.com. Rated top 5% in customer satisfaction and a Better Business Bureau A+ rated business. That's accessoneInc.com. Tech made personal, locally.
Your financial future deserves more than just a financial strategy. It deserves a dedicated resource. Meet Michelle Ashute with West Point Financial Group, a MassMutual firm. With almost 2 decades of experience, Michelle builds lifelong relationships, guiding families through legacy strategies, from grandparents down to grandkids, helping people secure their financial independence. Michelle Ashute is focused on needs, not just numbers, and that means retirement planning, life insurance, and estate planning strategies. Whether preparing for college, retirement, or protecting your business, Michelle's needs-based approach helps you prepare for life's biggest moments. Start building your financial future today. Call Michelle at 224-499-3665. That's 224-499-3665. Michelle Ashute of West Point Financial Group, helping you earn, learn, and secure your tomorrow. Local firms or sales offices of Massachusetts Mutual Life Insurance Company. MassMutual, Springfield, Massachusetts, 01111-001, and are not subsidiaries of MassMutual or its affiliated companies. Michelle Ashute is a registered representative of and offers securities through MML Investor Services, LLC, member SIPC. Supervisory office located at 30 South Wacker Drive, Suite 2700, Chicago, Illinois, 60606.
I remember sitting in the kitchen, heartbroken, overwhelmed, staring at costs and a list of decisions. I prayed for strength and reached out to Catholic Cemeteries of Chicago, only to hear that Mom had already pre-planned everything so my siblings and I would be protected. Because she planned ahead, we weren't pulled apart by heartbreaking decisions.
Visit CatholicCemeteriesChicago.org or call 708-236-5407 to schedule a free consultation.
If you're over 65 and struggling with knee pain, Joint Relief Institute offers a guaranteed way to treat it. It's non-surgical and often covered by Medicare and private insurance. It's JRI's Joint Arthritis Treatment, knee lubrication placement that's so accurate it's 100% guaranteed and can relieve your knee and shoulder pain in 10 minutes or less. Book your risk-free consultation today and get back to walking, golfing, pickleball to cycling without pain or medication. Call 708-315-6800. Meet the provider, get an x-ray and joint consultation. Why wait? JRI has treated over 30,000 Chicagoans and performed over 400,000 procedures. You could be next. Over 5,000 5-star Google reviews can't be wrong.
Stop living in pain. Call the Joint Relief Institute today, 708-315-6800, or visit jointreliefinstitute.com. Locations in Glenview, Oak Brook, and Orland Park. That's 708-315-6800 for the Joint Relief Institute. Medicare and most private insurance plans accepted.
Now, your official weather forecast.
Today, expect a mix of clouds and sun with a high of 52. Tonight will be mostly cloudy with a low of 39. Tomorrow will be warmer with a mix of sun and clouds and a high of 68. Thursday will be very warm with the transition from sunshine to clouds, leading to a chance of afternoon showers and a heavy thunderstorm. The high on Thursday will reach 73. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
Portions of the following show may be pre-recorded.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560, The Answer.
Top Top of the morning, Dan Proft here, and the murder of Sheridan Gorman, that Loyola freshman, has become a national story now. Another national story out of Chicago, which means it's awful news. Chicago is the bad example. And, of course, in this case it is. You had a beautiful young woman that was murdered by a person in this country illegally who turned out to be a twofer, both a public safety threat as well as a public health threat. He missed his arraignment yesterday. It was postponed till Friday because he's being treated for tuberculosis. Perfect. That's a sanctuary state twofer. That's what we call that. And thanks to this program and this station, we're amplifying this story such that it is being picked up by national outlets and broadcasters. And it should be, because it's an indictment of sanctuary jurisdictions across the country, and in particular, the sanctuary state and city Pauls in Chicago. 312-642-5600 to give us a call or text on Chicago's Morning Answer. Being treated for tuberculosis. But the good news is he was standing 6 feet apart, more than 6 feet apart from Sheridan Gorman when he murdered her. Yesterday, Cardinal Blaise Cupich opined on Sheridan Gorman's murder. Apparently he spoke with her parents.
Tom and Jessica, the parents of Sheridan, are taking this very hard. As Tom said to me on the phone, every parent says that their kid is the best in the world when mine was.
And so what did you say to them, Cardinal, about your support for sanctuary jurisdictions? The very policies that the family is pointing to, not explicitly, but unmistakably.
Gorman's family said in a statement, "We are gravely disappointed by the policies and failures that allowed this individual to remain in a position to commit this crime."
The policies and failures. The policies are sanctuary, city, county, state, as well as the Pritzker Purge law, the turnstile justice, the lack of cooperation with federal authorities, all of those policies which can do nothing but fail to provide for the public safety, and they do. A reminder of how this went down.
Prosecutors say the 18-year-old Gorman was with friends on the pier near Toby Prince Beach when they came upon Medina dressed in all black with a black mask. He allegedly opened fire as the group ran, fatally shooting Gorman in the back. This arrest report says witnesses saw Medina walking with a very distinct and slow gait, which helped police track him with surveillance video to his Rogers Park apartment building.
And here's a kicker. This is something we spoke about with former Riverside Police Chief Tom Weitzel yesterday.
There, a lobby camera captured him without a mask. And after investigators used facial recognition software, U.S. Customs and Border Protection records returned a match for the Venezuelan national. Inside his apartment, police allegedly found a .40 caliber handgun matching the shell casing at the scene.
Facial recognition software that was used to quickly identify and apprehend the suspect. That's something, again, as we discussed yesterday, that state legislators, beginning with out and proud lesbian Kelly Cassidy, wants to ban the use of facial recognition software by law enforcement in Illinois. The Illinois Biometric Surveillance Act, being pushed by Kelly Cassidy, resplendent in her black and blue hair, because she's a serious person. Her proposed law would ban the use of facial recognition and other biometric identifiers by law enforcement statewide. No agency could use the technology or enter into an agreement with the state or federal agency to use it. The bill would still allow for fingerprinting pursuant to an arrest or a conviction, or to collect forensic evidence at a crime scene. Well, that's nice. So a potential facial recognition match alone is not enough to file charges. Detective use facial recognition software to help generate leads and identify potential suspects. It's especially useful in CTA investigations because the transit system is blanketed with an exceptionally high-quality surveillance camera network, as CWB Chicago reported, except when a tiny dancer's kid is getting beaten up. Then somehow the camera system over at CTA doesn't work. Remember that? What was Rahm Emanuel's son up to that time? Yes. CWB Chicago gives a couple of examples. 2 days before Christmas last year, someone shot and killed a 44-year-old in an altercation aboard a Pink Line train near the Washington Well Station. Second person was also shot. You may not remember it because it happens daily, so it's tough to distinguish one shooting, knifing, torching from another on CTA. I understand. CTA cameras recorded the altercation. A knife appeared, then a gun was drawn, then a gun was dropped. Someone picked it up and shot the surviving victim, who fled to the next car. Then they shot the 44-year-old I mentioned in the chest. Detectives fed the surveillance footage through facial recognition software, which returned a suspect as a possible match. Prosecutors said the surviving victim later picked that suspect out of a photo lineup. Multiple law enforcement officers and civilians also identified him from surveillance stills. And once they got on to the suspect, they recovered the handgun from a bag he was carrying, because most criminals are not geniuses. Testing determined it was the gun used to kill the 44-year-old, and now he was subsequently arrested, charged, and is awaiting trial. Oh, he's awaiting trial. At least he's in custody. So anything that may aid and abet the enforcement of the law against predators, domestic or imported, that's something that the Illinois political class, that the Illinois electorate has chosen, is against. Just to be clear. Okay. I think we're up to speed. Christine in West Rogers Park.
Good morning. Sorry, I just woke up. I know more about Loyola than I care to. And about 20 years ago, they switched their zip code from 60626 to 60660. Thousands of dollars of stationery letterhead had to be thrown out because parents shop, and they shop by crime zip codes. And I think parents now should start, when they want to jump 50, 60 grand a year on a school, send your kids to a school that's not in a sanctuary city. Don't let them even go on a campus tour there.
Thanks for the call, Christine. That's where I got my law degree, Loyola. Undergraduate degree from Northwestern. Boy, regrets, I've got a few. To borrow from the chairman of the board. Alderman Maria Hadden, she's the alderhuman who looks like Alvin from the Cosby Show I mentioned yesterday, if you're trying to keep track of people. She had an interesting take on Sheridan Gorman's murder once she turned her attention to it after focusing her attention this weekend, even though this happened in her ward, focusing her attention not on public safety, but on the upcoming trans visibility rally at Federal Plaza next month. I know you're as excited as I am. And, this may have been actually Sheridan Gorman's fault, according to your alderhuman, Maria Hadden. Listen to this hot take.
From what I've been told so far, right, from what police know, from speaking to the students who were with her, it seems she might have, that as they were just out, people go out to the beach all the time, right? And they go out on the pier, they walk around. So the kids were out doing normal things people do in the neighborhood. And it sounds like this might have been a wrong place, wrong time, running into a person who had a gun. They might have startled this person at the end of the pier unintentionally. But that's all we know. So it from what I've been told, what police investigation has turned up so far, what they've been able to share with me and with Loyola University, we don't believe there is cause for broader community concern.
No reason to be concerned. Nothing to see here as the fireworks factory is exploding behind Alderhuman Hadden. Please disperse. No reason for community concern. There's reason for community concern every day in Chicago. she may have startled. She and her friends may have startled the shooter. Really? She was shot in the back running away from him. Wrong place, wrong time. Yeah, exactly. A college student with her friends, enjoying the beach, trying to see the northern lights. She's in the wrong place at the wrong time. The person here illegally who has an arrest warrant and a gun and opened fire on unarmed students fleeing him, he's in the right place. He's in the right place if you want to get away with that kind of predation. Got a whole line of apologists and the willfully silent, the hear, see, speak no evil crowd in charge of Chicago and Illinois. Perfect place to be if you want to prey on other people. Greg in Rogers Park.
Yeah, a little compare and contrast. Mike Gallagher yesterday followed up on your story with very accurate and honest journalism and analysis about what happened in his own words and disgust and everything. And plus, he quoted, your assessment. And then you turn on Fox 32 News with Paris Schultz, a horrible in my mind, who gives a totally different story of an apologetic, amplitude of Democratic garbage, and apologetics, and everything, like allegedly, and, it's just too bad and all that. So you got Paris Schultz, horrible fake news, and you got Mike Gallagher, accurate, honest news. Thank you, Dad.
Thanks, Greg. Matt, Mount Greenwood.
There's so many things to say. If Haddon startled somebody, it wouldn't be a bad day, or Pritzker startled somebody like this, wouldn't be a bad day. But, as a practicing Catholic, as a resident of Chicago for the majority of my adult life, for my family, what are we supposed to do, really? I mean, looking at voting and moving, it's a lot easier said than done. But you almost feel, I'm not helpless, but there are a lot of helpless people out there, and they're trapped like animals. And it comes to a point where Blaise Supich has got to be called out, Catholic Charities has to be called out loud, and people need to really start paying attention, because something's going to happen. Because I think about my daughter, who will be 16 in a couple of weeks, and God forbid if this happened, because people are going to blow up here real soon. I'm actually very upset right now talking to you, and after hearing what this moronic alderhuman just said about this rabid animal, it's sickening. These people are mentally ill. I'm talking about Democrats.
Yeah. Well, Matt, I mean, how about your alderhuman, Matt O'Shea? What's he have to say about this? What's he have to say about?
He won't even talk to me. He will not talk to me.
I know, but I mean,
coward.
I concede those points, but I guess my point, your state legislators, on the South Side, I'm sure it's the same way. But at what point? At what point to all the sensible people in Beverly and Mount Greenwood and the surrounding neighborhoods, you organize to support the blue, to support firefighters and first responders, which is great. You should. But then you settle for that kind of representation, just for example. I mean, somebody has to suffer some political consequences somewhere. And I don't know. I mean, the 41st Ward is, Napolitano's solid. He could be more vocal, but he's solid.
Right.
There's a couple of them. But there has to be a reckoning that happens somewhere to inspire political reckonings elsewhere. I mean, that's the only thing I would suggest, in addition to, what you otherwise do to take care of your business. But I appreciate the call. Thanks. Tim in Plainfield.
Yeah, Dan, it's like her take on that thing is like she startled a wild animal in the woods, like a bear or something.
Yeah, it's just an accident. It was an accident. Wrong place, wrong time. It's just an animal doing what an animal does. Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's like it maybe goes to a deeper. It's like the dehumanizing that the Democrat Party does to everybody.
Well, that's right. Thanks for the call, Tim. That's exactly what they do, so that we can quickly move past it. Everybody express your sadness at the loss of this life and all of that potential, this young woman, and then just let's move on, right? Text from 773. Was it the back, stomach, or head? Yeah, I know. The initial reporting was that she was shot in the head. That was corrected to say she was shot in the abdomen, and that was corrected again, fog of war type of stuff, to say she was shot in the midsection, but it was through the back because she was trying to flee. When shots started being fired, she naturally turned and ran. All right, we'll take more of your calls on this and fold in BLM Brandon. He sat down for a probing one-on-one. Of course, I'm kidding. It was with a Chicago Press Corps outlet, so of course it wasn't probing. To talk about his interest in re-election. We'll fold that into the conversation, as well as Joe Abraham, Angel Dad Joe Abraham. At 5:38, now we check that headline.
Good morning. It is 27 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the QC Kinetics newsroom. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement is asking Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker and Chicago officials to not release a Venezuelan migrant who's been charged with killing a Loyola University student. 25-year-old Jose Medina was arrested by Chicago police and charged with the murder of 18-year-old Sheridan Gorman. Medina was apprehended twice in 2023 and released both times. He was due to appear in court yesterday but missed that date due to an undisclosed medical condition that has him hospitalized. A Cook County judge denied a Chicago Teachers Union motion for summary judgment and granted the plaintiff's request to compel discovery in a case over the union's lack of releasing financial audits to its members. Liberty Justice Center Chair Sarah Albrecht says that the court saw through the CTU's effort to avoid scrutiny. This report is sponsored by AutoZone. Get in the zone. It's time to say goodnight to that check engine light with the free AutoZone Fix Finder service. It'll help troubleshoot the likely cause of your light for free so you can drive with peace of mind. Restrictions apply. Get in the zone. AutoZone. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next.
Hugh Hewitt is optimistic about negotiations.
Not many people putting up their hand to replace Laranjani, I think. There was a period of time in the 80s when I was in the Reagan administration when the Soviet leader would keep dying. Brezhnev died. Then Andropov died. Then Chernenko died. Then we got Gorbachev. So maybe eventually we will get someone with whom President Trump can deal.
The Hugh Hewitt Show. Afternoons at 2, right before Alex Marlowe at 3 on AM 560. The Answer.
If you're nearing retirement, stop what you're doing and listen, because what's unfolding right now could hit your 401k or IRA harder than anything we've seen in years. Military escalation across the Middle East, a tariff war spilling into the courts, the U.S. dollar facing pressure that historically signals one thing: a flight to safety. Smart money has been moving into gold and silver, and it's not slowing down. Call Advantage Gold right now at 800-900-8000 and get your free gold investment kit, plus a free copy of economist Ken Rogoff's eye-opening book, Our Dollar, Your Problem. Thousands of Americans have already rolled over a portion of their retirement savings into physical gold and silver, completely tax and penalty-free through Advantage Gold. The next news cycle won't wait for you. Get into position now. Call Advantage Gold at 800-900-8000. Results vary. Consult your financial advisor before investing. Call Advantage Gold at 800-900-8000. That's 800-900-8000.
There's no championship league for small business owners, but if there was, you'd be at the top of the standings. Because going pro with Lenovo Pro means you've got the winning formation, one-on-one advice, IT solutions, and customized hardware powered by Intel Core Ultra processors help you stay ahead of the competition. Business goes pro with Lenovo Pro. Sign up for free at lenovo.com/pro.
Lenovo. It's tax season, and by now, I know you're a bit tired of the numbers, but here's an important one you need to hear. $16 billion. That's how much money in refunds the IRS flagged for possible identity fraud. Not all grim news. LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second for your personal information and alerts you to threats that you could easily miss on your own. If your identity is stolen, LifeLock's U.S.-based restoration specialist is going to fix it. Save up to 40% off your first year with the promo code BECK, 1-800-LifeLock or LifeLock.com. Terms do apply.
Amazon Business empowers leaders with smart business buying tools, leaving time to focus on strategy and growth. Free up your teams and focus on your future at AmazonBusiness.com.
Now, your official weather forecast.
Today, expect a mix of clouds and sunshine with a high of 52. Tonight will be mostly cloudy with a low of 39. Tomorrow will be warmer with a combination of sun and clouds, reaching a high of 68. Thursday is set to be very warm, transitioning from sunny skies to clouds with a chance of a few afternoon showers and a heavy thunderstorm. The high temperature will be 73. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here, talking about the murder of Sheridan Gorman. The political and policy implications. And where we left off was the prospect of this being a trigger for at least an attempt for some sort of political reckoning somewhere in Chicagoland, somewhere in the state of Illinois. Seems unlikely, if I must say. And by the way, it took till yesterday, frankly, for both political parties to respond to this, even with the pro forma sincerest condolences statement, which you got from Jelly Belly and then his toady, your next U.S. Senator, most likely, Juliana F. Trump Stratton. That's her campaign platform. Vote Juliana Stratton for Senate, F. Trump. Deep thinker. Jelly Belly, Sheridan Gorman's murder is a tragedy and the person responsible must be held accountable to the fullest extent of the law. My deepest condolences to the family, friends, and Loyola University community grieving this devastating loss. I'm sure you're as moved as I am. Juliana F. Trump Stratton, no one should endure this kind of loss. Violence like this has no place in our communities, and there must be justice for Sheridan Gorman. My prayers are with her family and all who loved her. Violence like this. No place. It seems to have a very welcome place, it turns out, in Chicagoland. Very welcome place. The Illinois Republican Party was no quicker on the draw, by the way. The Illinois GOP posted on X, our hearts break for Sheridan Gorman's family. Friends and family, she should still be alive today. Can Illinois Dems agree that illegal aliens like Jose Medina, the scum of the earth, should never have been in our state in the first place? Really? That's what you got? Can Illinois Dems agree? What are you're trying to forge common ground with Juliana F. Trump Stratton and Jelly Belly? Boy, you really put him on it. Yeah, put it on him, didn't you? Really fix their wagon, challenging them. Illegal immigrants like Jose Medina? Which illegal immigrants should be in Illinois? Is there some renewed effort to call for the repeal of the sanctuary state law that I've missed? The Pritzker Purge law, no cash bail. To allow county sheriffs to enter into 287G agreements with ICE, so that at least at the local level, you empower sheriffs to work with federal law enforcement to help remove, well, the worst of the worst, yes, but anybody else who is here illegally, as far as I'm concerned. I'm unclear on what the Illinois Republican Party's position is on this. I wasn't unclear what Ted Dabrowski's position was on those matters. And that was central to his primary campaign. But that didn't generate enough interest from enough Republicans to support such a person to drive those sorts of issues. So I'm really a bit confused as to what, if any, position the Republican Party has on this and where they were for the last 72 hours when the rest of, well, when we were talking about it and then ultimately the rest of the nation started picking it up over the weekend into yesterday. And you wonder why you have the state you have. And you wonder why, if you're somebody who's center-right, votes in Republican primaries, participates even infrequently in Republican Party politics, you wonder why you have this nasty rumor of a Republican Party that doesn't really exist to any particular ends. And thus you have the Jelly Bellies, the JBs and the BJs and the Juliana F. Trump Strattons having the run of the field. Real head scratcher, isn't it? So you're a center-right voter. I mean, you're in the city. There's zero. There literally is sort of zero, maybe with the exception of Chicago YRs. Zero, but not elected officials or competitive elections. Zero things happening. But in the suburbs, before you run around decrying your local neo-Marxist state rep or Jelly Belly or Juliana F.U. Stratton or your congresswoman, maybe you should take a look at your party, the party to which you affiliate. You can't deliver a reckoning to the local township for the very few suburbanites who have a Republican legislator, although John Curran is allegedly some sort of Senate superminority leader there in the suburbs, out Western Springs way. If you can't deliver a reckoning there, then, you can just dispense with the pretense and just go ahead and sit on the bench and watch this play out. Andy in Wheatfield, Indiana.
Hey, good morning, Dan. First time calling. Just a question to the elder person you mentioned earlier. At what time do we start holding the people that vote these folks in accountable? Like, when do we target them? Not target in a violent way, but target with literature and or common sense, or introduce some morals into their lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, thanks for the call, Andy. That's exactly what I'm talking about. If you can't get to the politician, can you get to your circle of influence? The people that you actually interact with, that you actually know? Can you muster up the courage to say something to them? Maybe something pointed. Heaven forbid. Larry in Elmhurst.
Hey, good morning, Dan. Let's not forget, as he was stuffing his face with a burrito in Little Village, who signed that trust act to start all this crap.
That would be Bruce Rauner. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm aware.
And
thanks for the sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. No, I'm aware. And then how many times do I have to say it? And then we had an opportunity to really send a message to the ecosystem by taking out an incumbent governor in a primary. For his betrayals of the Republican Party. Tax increase, Safety Act, abortion on demand, taxpayer funded. But, and this is particularly people downstate again, couldn't be bothered to get a clue And so Jeannie Ives loses by less than a percentage point in that primary back in 2018. Those are the inflection points I've talked about often, where you have an opportunity to change how people perceive the party, to change the internal dynamics of the party, because now politicians know that there is a potential reckoning coming if they stick it in the back of their constituents. I mean, how that Jeannie Ives got so close, taking out an incumbent governor in the party primary is something that happens exceedingly infrequently. Like it's happened, I remember researching, it's happened like 3 times in the country in the last half century. And we were this close to putting ourselves on the map in a positive way for a change. By saying, yeah, we actually do have a party that's vibrant enough to hold Quislings accountable. But no, because enough people couldn't be bothered to tune in and know what the hell's going on. And enough people couldn't be bothered to tell their friends who don't know what the hell's going on, what the hell's going on, and so forth. At every turn when there's been an opportunity, the Republican Party has assiduously focused their effort to miss it. And that's only been going on for 25 years. Not just for governor's races, but legislative leadership and Senate candidates and just up and down and over and around. Remarkable. The odds of this level of incompetence with so many players that have come and gone. The odds of the odds of these results are like the odds of picking the perfect March Madness bracket. And yet we have beaten the odds, and we continue to. Remarkable. Bill, Northwest Side.
Yeah, to get to Jelly Belly's murdering illegals, you're going to have to get through Jelly Belly first.
Yeah, that's right. You come for his people, you come through him. That's right. That's who he wants to protect. He said so. Takes the guesswork out of it. Very helpful. Text from 630, hold voters accountable means preventing women from voting. Duh. Great. Okay. So we'll put you in charge of leading the effort to repeal the 19th Amendment. Could you keep us updated on how that's going? Because that's a serious proposal. This is the stuff I love. I've got this big idea and nothing else, nothing less will do. And it's so implausible, untenable, that it's perfect. It's the perfect cover for my cop-out. I don't have to participate because you're not pursuing my one big idea. That has zero viability. So I'll just sit on the sidelines and tell everybody what we should be doing, that what we're not doing. Brilliant. Terribly helpful. Boone in his car.
Hey, Dan. Yeah, you're getting to the point of it. I was not contacted whatsoever by the Illinois GOP during this last primary. So I was contacted by countless Democrats. So if nobody's going to reach out to get voters to vote, nothing's going to change as far as I'm concerned. Now we got this corn doofus from down south who didn't even debate, won the frickin' primary. You know, it's just utterly frustrating. I did all I could to get the word out for Dan. I think I maybe got him 30, 50 votes. I was the only one in my community that had a yard sign, which is very disturbing. And it's not Ted's fault. I reached out to Ted. He got me the yard sign. One of his representatives came out. They were very gracious about it. Ted did all he could. I blame the GOP of Illinois. That's all.
Thanks for the call, Boone. Appreciate it. Yeah. 800,000 primary voters in 2022. 500, I don't know. I didn't look at the final tally, but somewhere between 550, 575,000 Republican primary voters this time around. I give up. Okay. Okay. So give up. Wait, is this the part where I'm supposed to beg you, please don't give up? So give up. And you get what you get. All right. But yeah, there's no question that, the permanent campaign needs to be something that the Republican Party embraces. It has in many places. It has at the national level. In Illinois, it's tough because you just don't have interest. The Republican Party's performance has beaten the interests out of a lot of Republicans, and certainly Republican donors. But, heaven forbid anybody do or say anything differently than they've been doing or saying for 2 decades. But whatever you do at the leadership level in the Republican Party, please do not show any signs of life. It will confuse people. Chris, Rogers Park.
Hey, Dan. Yeah, you were saying earlier, we all agree he shouldn't have been here. The Democrats do agree. I've seen them saying they do agree he shouldn't have been here, but it's the Republicans' fault. It's Greg Hot Wheels Abbott that put him on a bus.
How do they know that? They've tracked his movement from the border to Texas to a bus to here. Thanks for the call, Chris. Well, and so this is the whole point: is the Republican Party like that? They are not. I mean, there is no gravitas. There is no fight. It's like a snarky, passive-aggressive, half-ass post on X. This should be all hands on deck. This should be trying to focus people's attention on the sanctuary state and bring in all of the other victims' families, everybody you can, and be relentless and just tell stories, which you can do for free, not to the extent you want in terms of reach and frequency, but you can distribute and get people to distribute, and word of mouth, a little elbow grease, a little effort. Greg Abbott's buses, you welcome them. We're a welcoming state. Not only did you welcome them, you incented them with rental assistance and shelters and food and all the welfare state benefits and a couple $2 billion worth of other people's money to cover health care costs and in-state tuition. I mean, really? How feeble and pathetic do you need to be to have the open borders crowd flip the script on this story on you? Are you serious? Marty, Naperville.
Morning, Dan. Great show as usual. The political atmosphere in this state is created by the alderman who says she was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and he may have been startled. And then now I hear that there's people yelling at the ICE agents at the airport. This is the atmosphere that's trying to be created by these people, and unfortunately, it seems to be working.
Of course. If next time I'm at O'Hare Midway, if ICE is still there because we still have the Democrat-induced shutdown, and somebody's yelling at TSA, I know what I'm going to say. What are you going to say? Anything? Joe in Naperville.
Dan, to answer your question on what's going to take the Republican Party to change things, you got to just look to Stalin's answer. It's got to get worse before it gets better. Seriously, I had a woman that there was a coyote in our neighborhood, and I was talking to her. I'm like, they got to kill these coyotes. She's like, no, they're God's creatures. I'm like, yeah, you're going to say that until that coyote eats your purse dog.
Thanks for the call, Joe. Yeah, I don't know if it has to get more Stalinist before it gets better. It got marginally better in Russia after Stalin. You may have, in the Soviet Union and then Russia, you may have noticed. Boy, yeah, it has to get worse before it gets better. I heard that, but there also have to be people interested in better. Coming up at 6:06, we'll turn our attention to Trump's pronouncements on Iran yesterday. 6:06, now 6 o'clock at AM 560 WIND Chicago.
They don't even agree that they're trying to work out an agreement. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. President Trump insists Iran badly wants to work out a deal. He says it could be good for everybody.
As good as if we went all the way and just literally annihilated the place, which if we don't have to do that, that would be a good thing, not a bad thing.
But Iran's parliament speaker, reported to be involved in the talks, calls that fake news.
Iran's Revolutionary Guards also dismissing what they call psychological operations. But an Iranian foreign ministry official admits his country has at least reviewed points from the U.S. as a precursor to talks. The White House says the situation is fluid. Reuters reports Pakistan could host substantive peace talks as soon as this week.
That's Fox's Jonathan Savage. President Trump delayed his threatened attacks on Iran's power plants and energy infrastructure, but the U.S. and Israel continue hitting other targets, and Iran keeps countering, launching another barrage of missiles at Israel. Fox's Trey Yingst is at the site where one got through air defense.
Right now, first responders are removing debris and rubble from the site of a direct impact in Tel Aviv. The side of this apartment building totally sheared off. At least 6 people were wounded in Israel's second largest city as these Iranian missile barrages continue.
Mark Wayne Mullen will soon be a former senator. Confirmed last night, maybe sworn in today as the new Homeland Security Secretary as talks continue trying to end a stalemate over funding his department. TSA agents have worked without pay for more than a month, and more aren't showing up, leading to hours-long airport security lines. So Fox's Madeline Rivera reports.
ICE agents have been spotted at major airports. Border Czar Tom Homan says they're prioritizing airports where the wait times are the longest, like in Atlanta, Houston, New Orleans, and New York City.
That's where investigators continue looking into Sunday night's crash at LaGuardia Airport. National Transportation Safety Board Director Jennifer Homendy just told Fox.
They have a lot of questions for air traffic control.
An Air Canada Express flight collided with a fire truck right after landing, killing both pilots. America's listening to Fox.
Good morning. It is 27 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the QC Kinetics newsroom. There's plenty of public reaction following the recent firing of one of Chicago Mayor Brennan Johnson's top aides. Former Deputy Mayor of Public Safety Gary Gatewood was terminated last week. 19th Ward Alderman Matt O'Shea says the city official was very influential in driving down crime here in Chicago. He added that Gatewood was present during teen takeovers and was supportive of families who lost loved ones. Meanwhile, anti-crime advocate Reverend Sierra Bates Chamberlain says the timing of the firing is quite upsetting. She mentions that as the weather gets warmer, we traditionally see an uptick in violence here in the city. The Johnson administration says it remains fully committed to making sure that they continue their commitment to public safety. They add that Jason Sanford will be serving as the interim deputy mayor of community safety. Federal immigration law enforcement officers have joined Transportation Security Administration workers at O'Hare International Airport. Jim Talamonte reports.
ICE agents were seen at O'Hare and several other airports around the country on Monday. More than 400 TSA workers have left the department, and thousands of others are missing work, while a partial government shutdown leaves them without paychecks. American Federation of Government Employees Local 777 President Darrell English told the Center Square that TSA workers are concerned.
They've been loyal to the aviation and protecting the flying public, and all they're requesting is to be paid, not to be replaced. When they see individuals coming assisting them, it gives them gives them the thought that they're trying to get replaced.
English said his members would have another issue in April when rent and mortgage payments are due for a second month since they were last paid February 13th. I'm Chip Talamonte.
News is a service of American Beam and Steel, structural repair licensed contractors for your home and business. Search for American Beam and Steel online to schedule your consultation directly with the owner, Mark. American Beam and Steel. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560, The Answer.
Larry Elder sees the president blazing a trail.
The Iranians hold a chokehold because people are afraid they're going to build a nuke. We haven't stopped them. Venezuela has a thug that's run the country into the ground. We put up with it in our own hemisphere. Same thing with Cuba, and there's nothing we can do about it. Trump has walked in and said no, no, and no. That's what President Trump has done.
The Larry Elder Show. Weeknights at 8, right before Sean Hannity at 10 on AM 560. The Answer. Sign up for the AM 560 Answer Advantage to get early alerts on event ticket sales, special discounts, and contest opportunities. Sign up today at 560theanswer.com/advantage.
Rick Borick talks about the emotions of stock market investing.
At what point would you rethink your decision that you're invested in the stock market? And you'll notice that someone who answered that question 6 months ago saying, I'm not going to panic until it's down 30%, calls you up on the phone and says, it's down 8, what's going on? And I says, what happened to the 30% guy, right?
Unleash your wealth, Saturday at 7 a.m. and 2 p.m. on AM 560, The Answer.
Why does Progressive love protecting truckers? Because truckers unite the world. Truckers unite candles and yoga instructors. Truckers unite fake plants with people who shouldn't own living plants. Truckers unite French press coffee makers with the most pretentious person you know. But truckers can't do any of this if they're not on the road. That's why Progressive now offers truckers even more protection on cargo with its enhanced Cargo Plus coverage. Get a quote in as little as 8 minutes at ProgressiveCommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Coverage subject to policy terms, limits, and conditions. Not available in California.
Following the attacks on 9/11/01, FDNY firefighter Daniel Foley assisted in the rescue and recovery efforts at Ground Zero. Daniel spent months and months searching for victims. Now, Daniel's death was the direct result of 9/11-related cancer. He leaves behind his wife, Carrie, and their children. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the family's home. Join us. Donate $11 a month to the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Go to their website, the letter T, the number 2, the letter T.org.
Drowning in IRS debt? If you can't afford to pay your IRS debt due to economic hardship, you can now be free of IRS collection efforts by taking advantage of a special IRS tax hardship program. This program allows Americans who owe the IRS to resolve their delinquent tax debt once and for all. In some cases, maybe even reducing what you owe significantly. An open phone line has been established by Community Tax for consumers to call and see if they qualify. Simply dial 800-215-8608. If you owe back taxes to the IRS and cannot afford to pay them back or have years of unfiled tax returns, help is standing by. Just call the Community Tax Helpline today at 800-215-8608 for the help that you need. Don't take on the IRS alone. They can attack your wages, savings, pension, home, and even your Social Security check. Call 800-215-8608 to see if you qualify. That's 800-215-8608.
Gain insight into building strong marriages and raising godly children with Focus on the Family with Jim Daly each weekday at 11:30 a.m. on our sister station, AM 1160. Hope for your life.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. 14 minutes both ways on the Edens this morning from Lake Cook to Montrose, and not too bad on the Kennedy. 17 in from O'Hare to the Byrne Interchange. Outbound is 23, and you've got 13 minutes in both directions on the Ike from Wolf to the Old Post Office. 24 in, 22 out on the Stevenson from Veterans Memorial to Lakeshore, and just 13 minutes inbound on the Dan Ryan from 95th to the Byrne Interchange. Outbound is 10, and still cleaning up from this weekend's Shamrock Shuffle. In Grant Park, so Balboa Drive still shut down both ways between Columbus Drive and Lakeshore Drive. This report is a service of the AM 560 Advantage. Membership has its privileges, including early access to event tickets, exclusive contest opportunities, and special member-only content. Join today at 560theanswer.com/join. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now the latest forecast from the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today, expect a mix of clouds and sunshine with a high of 52. Tonight will be mostly cloudy with a low of 39. Tomorrow will be warmer with a combination of sun and clouds, reaching a high of 68. Thursday is set to be very warm, transitioning from sunny skies to clouds with a chance of a few afternoon showers and a heavy thunderstorm. The high temperature will be 73. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. We'll get to Iran a bit later. I want to stick on this topic that we spent the first hour on, which is using Sheridan Gorman's murder as a jumping off point to talk about the corruption of Chicagoland and Illinois' civic sensibilities. That's really what we're talking about. And thus the disintegration of the mediating institutions, and thus the devolution, certainly of Chicagoland. And this is across the political spectrum. My commentary is. See if you can pick up any parallel here. My friend and friend of the show here, Bob Woodson, from the Woodson Center in D.C., one of the truly great civil rights leaders going back to the civil rights era of the 60s, and thinkers, solutionists when it comes to dealing with issues of poverty in particular, because he spent his life trying to help people regardless of color escape the clutches of poverty and live independent, productive lives. That's being your brother's keeper, by the way. Not getting them addicted to victimology and the associated government programs. Woodson's piece on Jesse Jackson Sr. and the occasion of his passing. I met Jesse Jackson in the late 1960s, Bob Woodson writes. In those years, he spoke clearly about the crisis facing black America. He understood that the struggle before black youth wasn't merely economic, but moral. In an August 1978 essay for Ebony, he observed that if the rising generation of black youth hoped to, quote-unquote, close the gap and catch up in income and education, their priority should be discipline. Jesse Jackson's words in 1978, quote, morally weak people not only inhibit their own personal growth, but finally contribute to the politics of decadence. A generation of people lacking the moral and physical stamina necessary to fight a protracted civilizational crisis is dangerous to itself, its neighbors, and to future generations. Shall I read that again? Jesse Jackson Sr., writing in 1978 about the need for discipline for black Americans to succeed. Now, this is not limited to black Americans. See if you can think about any other cohorts of Americans and Americans in Illinois for whom these words should be heeded. Morally weak people not only inhibit their own personal growth, but finally contribute to the politics of decadence. A generation of people lacking the moral and physical stamina necessary to fight a protracted civilizational crisis is dangerous to itself, its neighbors, and to future generations. I about fell over when I first read this. I was not familiar with Jesse Jackson's Ebony essay that Bob Woodson dug up. Yeah. The only difference between, well, not the only difference, but a major difference between Bob Woodson and Jesse Jackson Sr. is that Bob Woodson then spent the next 48 years taking the advice of that Jesse Jackson offered in 1978, and Jesse Jackson stopped taking his own advice. You see. Woodson said of those words, "This was the true spirit of the civil rights movement, moral uprising, not mere political maneuvering." Let me repeat that again. See if you think any place that statement has applicability. That was the true spirit of the civil rights movement. Wait for it. Emblazon it upon your consciousness. Moral uprising, not mere political maneuvering. Jesse Jackson anticipated the objections of readers who would rather remain fixated on racism, writing, "While I know that the victimizer may be responsible for the victim being down, the victim must be responsible for getting up." Every paragraph, there's a sentence that should be tattooed on people in Illinois. Were I not opposed to such things. Tattoos. While I know the victimizer may be responsible for the victim being down, the victim must be responsible for getting up. What happened to Jesse Sr.? Well, it's pretty obvious, but Bob Woodson lays it out with moral clarity. After he entered the partisan machinery, his prophetic voice gradually gave way to the language of grievance, compromise, and self-preservation. He no longer spoke primarily as a reformer, but as a performer on the political stage, a power broker. His focus strayed from rebuilding the moral and social foundations of struggling communities toward mobilizing their resentments. He sold out for 30 pieces of silver. Does that have any applicability to our discussion about the loss of Illinois' civic sensibility? Or am I talking to myself? Am I completely off base here to see the parallels? 312-642-5600 to give us a call or text. The decline, Woodson continues, wasn't merely the problem of Jesse Jackson. It reflected a broader shift in America itself. The early civil rights movement was grounded in discipline, sacrifice, and character. Its strongest leader spoke not only about the sins of segregation, but also about the responsibilities of freedom, understanding that justice without moral renewal would leave communities politically visible but internally broken. So when Obama challenged young men to be responsible fathers for about 30 seconds, Jesse Jackson, you remember this, accused him of speaking down to black people. He didn't like Barack Obama. But Jackson had delivered the same message that Obama delivered in that Ebony essay 30 years earlier. But that was long gone. Political power broker, extortionist, shakedown artist. That was his racket that he initiated not too much after that Ebony piece, interestingly. And then, of course, as Woodson properly observes, Obama chose the safety of racial grievance over the hard work of moral challenge almost immediately after making those statements, because it was performative, something he can point to rather than adhere to. Instead of seeking to inspire struggling communities to rise above destructive behaviors, both men came to see that political power could be gained by keeping wounds open. Woodson writes, when leaders become dependent on outrage, solutions become threats to their power. Right. You solve a problem for somebody, you put them in a position to live the independent, successful life. They don't need you anymore. Well, where's your political power? At least that's how the thinking is. Best way to keep people, the best way to keep my position and all of its benefits is to keep people under my thumb. It's to keep people dependent on what they think I'm providing them. See if this grabs you in terms of a parallel to what you're seeing today in Illinois. And you pick the parallel. I have my own in mind. Repeatedly, when elected black officials were disgraced by corruption, betrayal, or of the public trust or sexual misconduct, even in cases involving minors, Mel Reynolds, others, the response was silence, along with the troubling indifference to young black female victims who were ignored. In at least two such cases, those officials were reelected. When wrongdoing wears a black face, too many people who speak loudly of justice fall quiet. We often demand equity when it comes to the distribution of resources, yet resist equality when it comes to moral responsibility and character. We have wanted moral leniency for our side while demanding accountability from others. Yet communities can't be rebuilt on double standards. The poor suffer most when leaders are excused in the name of race, party, or history. Social movements begin to decline when they trade moral authority for political access. Social movements begin to decline when they trade moral authority for political access. Are you listening, Illinois Republican Party? Got to have a seat at the table. Got to protect my access. Low-income Americans know the difference between genuine leadership and political performance because they are the ones left to live with the consequences when leaders abandon principle for power. There's the opportunity for the Republican Party, I would say, in the words that Bob Woodson offers there. But you have to consummate it. And when they see you behave just like the people they've elected, that doesn't present much of an option for them, does it? As I've said many times before, leaning on the philosophy of Eric Hoffer, when people are worried that their situation could get even worse, they stick with what they have for fear of losing it. So when you parrot the people in charge, as the Republican Party has done so often in the state and continues to, the people will stick with what they have. And that's what they do. In closing, Whitson's most excellent piece, the next phase of progress won't come through confrontational slogans or deeper partisan alliances. It will come when the people demand leaders who refuse to be seduced by power, who speak honestly about both injustice and responsibility. Because real leadership isn't measured by proximity to power, but by faithfulness to truth. Right. If there was anybody that people thought lived up to those remarks in political circles in Illinois, they would flock to that person, I suggest. But I don't think that person exists in Illinois politics. Certainly not in public office. Parallels to the rise and fall of Jesse Jackson Sr. and the civil rights movement and the prospects for successful independent living among black Americans that runs concurrent with that rise and fall, as so outlined by Bob Woodson. You see parallels to Illinois? And I'm talking about across racial demographics. I'm talking about across party demographics. Those truisms Woodson offers have wide applicability, don't they? Ron, Southside.
Hey, Dan. I always appreciate when you bring on anything with Robert Woodson Sr. So I was talking to this lady. She's a host of a program, Black radio station. She calls me, likes talking politics, but I finally decided not to talk anymore because I mentioned Robert Woodson Sr. to her. Asked him about 3 times, Ryan, can you send me? What do I need to send you? That's his name. Look it up. So so I just came out and told her, you can't have him on your station. Okay? Let's be out, because he is not promoting victimization, and they despise me on that stage. I don't care. I don't even have to listen. But I'm saying, well, don't play games with me. You ever heard of Jason Riley? I said, a list of people. I said, you keep bringing the same folks up on, and black folks are getting the same. Lastly, I said, they had a question about, well, what is black media like today? I said, it's the precinct captain of the Democratic Party. That's what black media is. Have a good day, Dan.
Thanks for the call, Ron. Mark, Oak Lawn.
Dan, thanks for taking my call. Hey, great show, as usual. You know, I think, well, you make some great points about discipline, and I think the big thing...
No, I didn't make those points. Jesse Jackson Sr. did in 1978. That's the remarkable thing.
It's a remarkable thing, but I think the big key when you talk about discipline, it's really staying chaste, not getting pregnant, you know, when you're in high school. But I think the one thing with virtues really complements the discipline. You know, you got to live for the courage, the fortitude, patience, perseverance, hard work, education, and you know, you just have to have a mindset. And you really, when you have 2 good parents, you're very lucky too. That's key for success.
Thanks for the call, Mark. Yeah, but not everybody gets to, you know, attentive, loving parents, and you can still grow up with the character required to succeed. That's the point here. Text from 815. Who is the Republican Party parroting? The Democrats? ? I'm sorry, is that a rhetorical question? I hope so. Who do you think John Cass is talking about, or has been talking about for the last 30 years when he speaks of the bipartisan combine? And playing the bipartisan games has left the Republican Party where? Flush? Competitive? Relevant? None of those things. Because they did what? They traded principle for political access. They played right into the other side's hands. Willing participant in driving themselves to oblivion. Don't stop now, though. Boy, it's, I gotta say, it is extremely frustrating when people listen to this show who, you know, you need to be fairly with it to stay up with this show. Not most shows, but this show, yeah. Including on what's going on in Illinois. And you really don't have a sense of what the parallels are between the Illinois Republican Party's trajectory over, say, from the Thompson era to present, and what Bob Woodson is writing about with Jesse Jackson and the civil rights movement that traded in principle and sacrifice and discipline for the grievance politics that produced power for a small cadre of those who appointed themselves to leadership positions and maintain those leadership positions by propagating dependency among their own people? I guess if you're not seeing the parallels, then I must not be doing my job. Dan Proft, Chicago's Morning Answer.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
Your show keeps me alive during the week. There's nobody I'd rather listen to between 5 and 9 in the morning than you guys.
On AM 560, The Answer.
My name is Dr. Michael Huber, co-founder of Virago, the immune enhancement cocktail. Virago has earned its place in your medicine cabinet. It's your proven go-to for the flu, colds, and COVID. But you already know that part of the story. But today I want to tell you that if you're suffering from diabetes, hypertension, or autoimmune diseases, we want you to know that they share one common thread. They are inflammation machines. And that inflammation assaults your heart, your brain, and your kidneys 24/7. It's a silent, constant attack on your vital organs, wearing them down every single day. Taking Virago every day shields your heart, protects your kidneys, and guards your brain from chronic inflammation. Virago, the new protective standard in immunity.
Order your bottle of Virago online today at myvirago.com. That's myvirago.com. Use coupon code IMMUNE to save 30%.
Hey, it's Scott Tucker and my new co-host,
Amy Jacobson,
on AM 560. We wanted you to know that we have a special show every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. here on AM 560, The Answer. It is Retirement Decoded with Scott Tucker and
Amy Jacobson.
It's every Sunday morning from 7 to 9 a.m. 2-hour show, 2-hour radio extravaganza. Amy, we're going to tantalize the listening public and the listening private with all kinds of retirement planning information. So tune in at AM 560 Sunday mornings at 7 a.m.
The price of gold has topped $5,000 an ounce. So how much will you make when gold hits $6,000? Investors are taking advantage of a little-known gold investment released by the government. Now you can too, with our free special report from veteran trader Jim Woods called Gold Wealth Boosters. This new report outlines investments that have returned 12 to 26 times more than investing in gold bullion. Get your free Gold Wealth Boosters report. Log on to EagleGoldReport.com. EagleGoldReport.com.
AM 560, The Answer.
People asking for where they can read the Bob Woodson piece. It's a Wall Street Journal, so if you don't have a subscription, that's all right. I'll just cut and paste it. I'm sure the Journal will not banish me. I'll cut and paste it and post it on X so you can read it and share it yourself. All right, coming up at 6:36, we're going to talk to the Free Press's Olivia Reingold about this investigative piece that she did. Mentioned it in passing yesterday, but we're going to dig into it. What happens when you pay ex-gang members to stop crime? Ask Chicago. We'll ask Olivia Reingold about what she found out about Chicago. 6:36. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It is 30 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the QC Kinetics newsroom. President Donald Trump is blaming former President Joe Biden's immigration policies for allowing the suspected killer of a Loyola University Chicago student last week to enter the country. Speaking to reporters yesterday, Trump called Sheridan Gorman's murder devastating, saying that Jose Medina came into the U.S. through Biden's open-door policy. Medina, who's a Venezuelan immigrant, was charged with murder after 18-year-old Gorman was shot and killed last Thursday. Trump says the incident shows that there's a need for ramped-up immigration enforcement efforts. ICE agents have been deployed at O'Hare International Airport as a partial government shutdown continues. President Trump says those agents will be assisting the TSA security operations. In response to the deployment, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson says his office will use every tool to make sure that every person, no matter what their immigration status is, can travel to and from Chicago safely and without harassment from the federal government. Governor J.B. Pritzker says the deployment of ICE agents to airports is causing chaos and instilling fear. This report is a service of the AM 560 mobile app. Listen to AM 560 on your smartphone or mobile device when you download the AM 560 mobile app at 560theanswer.com/mobile. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
Larry Elder is impressed.
Destroyed apparently half of Iran's missile capability. Half. Have achieved air superiority. The Iranian naval, bottom of the ocean. Top leader and 40 some odd other top leaders wiped out in one fell swoop. This is stunning. Absolutely stunning.
The Larry Elder Show, weeknights at 8, right before Sean Hannity at 10 on AM 560. The Answer.
Chicagoland certified financial planning professional Tim Stearns discusses taxes in retirement.
Most people are paying more in taxes and keeping less of their money to live and do what they enjoy. That's why we've put out the retirement tax bill calculator online. You can see with your own eyes just how much you might be overpaying. It's a valuable tool, $500 value, but we made it free for you to view and run your own numbers at MVPCFP.com. That's MVPCFP.com.
To run your retirement tax bill calculator, go to MVPCFP.com. Investment advisory services offered through Cornerstone Securities, LLC.
Welcome to another edition of Tuesdays with Tim. My friend Tim Stearns, a certified financial planner with TJ Stearns Financial Planning in Arlington Heights. Tim, how are you? Welcome back.
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Tim, for more than 25 years, you've been helping clients achieve financial security and peace of mind. Can you give our listeners some examples of how you've helped clients over the years?
A couple of your listeners called in. They're a married couple. They're in their 60s. They were really concerned and tired of trying to manage their own investments. So their accounts were quite big, but they felt like they needed a little help with it so they didn't screw up at this stage of the game. So they couldn't afford to lose any money in the market moving forward, and trying to manage retirement on a fixed income was kind of a daunting task for them. So with about $1.5 million in 401k savings and other stocks and bonds, we rearranged their portfolio so that they had guaranteed future income, less volatility in the market, and of course tax savings. So now they have this peace of mind because they know that they have a protect and grow blueprint.
Thank you, Tim. If you're in your 50s or 60s, I want you to speak with my friend Tim Stearns, TJ Stearns Financial Planning. Tim will help you structure and optimize your savings to prepare for 20 to 30 years of enjoyable retirement. Call Tim today to schedule your free consultation and get your free Protect and Grow blueprint. Call 1-800-640-2256. Again, that number, 800-640-2256. Tell him I sent you when you call Tim at 800-640-2256.
Amazon Business empowers leaders with smart business buying tools, leaving time to focus on strategy and growth. Free up your teams and focus on your future at AmazonBusiness.com.
Good morning. It is 30 degrees here in Chicago.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. Still doing great on the Edens. It's 15 minutes inbound, 13 outbound from Lake Cook to Montrose. The Kennedy inbound from O'Hare to the Burn Interchange, 18 minutes. Outbound is 25. You've got 15 minutes in both directions on the Ike from Wolf to the Old Post Office. 26 in, 22 out on the Stevenson from Veterans Memorial to Lakeshore. The Dan Ryan from 95th to the Burn Interchange is 16 minutes. Outbound looks good at 11. A little bit sluggish inbound in the express lanes as you approach the Stevenson. And in Grand Park, we're still shut down. Cleanup from this weekend's Shamrock Shuffle on Balboa Drive, both ways between Columbus Drive and Lakeshore Drive. This report is sponsored by USPS Ground Advantage. We mean business. Business moves fast. When you ship with USPS Ground Advantage, you can keep up with confidence. Visit USPS.com/Ground Advantage to learn more. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now the latest forecast from the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today, expect a mix of clouds and sun with a high of 52. Tonight will be mostly cloudy with a low of 39. Tomorrow will be warmer with a mix of sun and clouds and a high of 68. Thursday will be very warm with the transition from sunshine to clouds, leading to a chance of afternoon showers and a heavy thunderstorm. The high on Thursday will reach 73. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Well, this is nothing new to listeners of our show. The question we've had to ask intermittently over the last many years. This isn't just a JB and BJ phenomenon. It precedes them. It's been exacerbated under them. But questions like, who protects the public from these peacekeepers that are funded by the city and state? You remember a case that we covered that that question calls to mind. Pritzker did a photo op with a peacekeeper named Kellen McMiller. And about a week later, he was part of a robbery crew that stole about $700,000 in merchandise from the Louis Vuitton store in Michigan Avenue. One of the getaway cars for that crew collided with another vehicle, killing a 40-year-old hospital researcher the day before his fiancée gave birth to their son. Terrible. But this goes back. This isn't just the peacekeepers and violence interrupters and deploying people on CTA platforms that are not police officers because we don't like police, but we do like community violence intervention programs, the NGOs, where we can distribute essentially walking around money to a lot of people of questionable repute, to say the least. But this goes back to safe passage, docents. Remember when during Tiny Dancer, when schools were closed, not wrongly, by the way, but it was haphazardly, and it became, of course, beset by union politics. And so kids were having to different routes. They had to go to certain schools in certain neighborhoods, which meant crossing into different gang territory, and it created public safety problems. So in, the genius of the political class here, the names change, the policies don't, was to put a bunch of idiot cousins of aldermen in yellow flak jackets and send them out to be escorts, safe passage escorts for kids to school, to no particular effect, except giving a handful of idiot cousins of aldermen some phony baloney job. It was about as impactful as those traffic management aides who used to stand in the middle of intersections in the loop and mimic traffic signals. That's what we do in Chicago. Make work jobs, and we call it public safety. We call it whether public safety traffic-wise or for the kids going to school or for commuters on the CTA. Most of it is nonsense. Now, this is not to say that I dismiss some of these C3 and C4 programs out of hand, because I don't. And we've also talked about examples of nonprofit enterprises that do prove up with some social good they are attempting to achieve. And we'll talk about that as well. But Olivia Reingold over at the Free Press did a really good investigative piece that I mentioned in general terms yesterday when we were talking about Sheridan Gorman's murder. And I think her piece is worth reading, number one, and it's worth doing a deeper dive on it and what she found. So let's do that right now. Olivia Reingold is a staff writer at the Free Press. Her piece is, "What happens when you pay ex-gang members to stop crime? Ask Chicago." All right, well, we're going to ask Olivia about Chicago. Olivia Reingold, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I mean, despite everything I uncovered, Chicago is still my favorite city, so happy to join you.
Okay, well, we'll try to live up to that. We're not doing a great job lately. So just the impetus to do this deep dive that you did.
Yeah, well, so I split my time in Chicago, and probably, I guess when this happened in September, someone just at a party casually said, "Did you see what happened with the governor?" And I checked this out and kind of couldn't believe that this had appeared in local press. And then there was almost no follow-up. And I couldn't find any local clips investigating the most important question, which is, what is this program, the Peacekeepers, and how often are arrests happening? And it turns out that was actually a really hard question to answer. I mean, I had to submit months worth of public records requests to try and answer that. This is not data that anyone is tracking. The police department is not tracking it. And perhaps predictably, these nonprofits, they don't keep data on it either. But I was able to uncover 29 arrests total of peacekeepers or men who were arrested while wearing a peacekeeper uniform. And that actually includes another man that Pritzker was pictured with that day. So it's actually not just Kellen McMiller. There was a second man that Pritzker was pictured with that day who went on a few weeks later to be arrested. It was a drug charge for cannabis, but then also an unspecified controlled substance. But the bottom line is that this is what happened with Kellen McMiller was not a one-off, and the people who are in these programs admit that it is kind of just a fact of the programs that it is, as one of my sources described it, a quote-unquote revolving door for crime.
Well, that's one thing. The people in the program that are saying, yeah, there's some unsavory characters, and they're using this to, as another stream of revenue for themselves while they're also still engaged in illicit activities. It's another thing, as you talked to in your piece, to talk to older humans like Brian Hopkins who are saying the same thing, the people that are actually at least have some control of the purse strings and yet are doing very little to stop the flow of these resources.
Yeah, so the way that these programs started out was through private philanthropy. I'm sure, well, I don't know if a lot of locals know this, but a huge driver of this whole sector has been Arne Duncan, the former education secretary under Obama, and then also his real financial backer is Laurene Powell Jobs, the widow of Steve Jobs, who is a billionaire herself. And they created this institution called Chicago Cred, and they are really the brainchild of the Peacekeeper program. But the bottom line is that increasingly the taxpayer is paying for this billion-dollar entity. So that was another big finding of this, is just putting a number on how much is being spent on anti-gang violence programs, kind of alternative anti-gang violence programs like the Peacekeepers and many, many other things in Chicago. And, I had to go grant by grant every year tracking, okay, where did the state, where did the city actually spend money? It genuinely, I probably spent 9 days total just to calculate how much has been spent on these programs. And yeah, it's $1 billion, and an increasing share of that is the taxpayer.
Well, and here's the thing. So, and then the question, of course, okay, well, you have the problems with these programs. I mean, we do not need to do a better job of screening and so on and so forth, but they're really producing results. And we've spoken with Arne Duncan about this. And, what he does is very much like the politicians. He takes credit for, macro trends. So he talks about homicides being down from 800 per annum in 2021 to 400, and shootings are down, and total arrests are down about half, although that's a very dubious statistic, because that police are making arrests because prosecutors, particularly under Fox, weren't prosecuting crimes, and because they're back on their heels. So because arrests are down doesn't mean that they should be down in terms of crimes being committed. But the larger point is to say they just, like Brandon Johnson, like J.B. Pritzker is, they're just looking at, macro statistics and cherry picking them and saying, well, these violent crimes are down and arrests are down, so what we're doing is working, and give us more money.
Right. So, of course, this is the main counter argument as soon as you kind of try to bring some of these claims to people who work in this massive nonprofit sector. They say, well, the data speaks for itself. And a few
it doesn't.
Things. One, the data certainly does say that crime is down, but I will say that crime is down nationally. And Chicago is... It's on par with what's happening nationally. The other huge finding that I have is that Chicago Cred, which, as we've established, is, really the huge mastermind behind many of these programs, they actually contribute money to Northwestern, which the Cred spokesperson confirmed is going to the lab that is producing overwhelmingly positive research on this entire sector. And so to me, again, a lot of the data, it's kind of a circular entity where a lot of the data that all of these activists are pointing to is actually, at least in part, funded by the nonprofits. And so when you speak to the nonprofits, they're pointing to the data that they themselves have at least partially funded. And then there's the whole other thing is when you dive into the actual numbers, well, I was able to establish that for 2 locations, CRED at one point was spending $10 million annually, and within a period of a few years from those 2 locations graduated 27 participants. So even if there are gains, the next question is, okay, well, what if, how much money is being spent to perhaps maybe impact one individual who then a few years later, sometimes these people are arrested, and it's often not tracked what happens to these people years later.
Right. So if we're spending $400,000 per success story, well, that's difficult to scale, even for Steve Jobs' widow. So what's really going on there versus something that is actually aligning incentives to change behavior, to change outlook, to grow character. I mean, that's completely the point. And this is not, and by the way, that ecosystem piece you mentioned about paying people to do the research to substantiate your programs. I mean, that's the oldest trick in the nonprofit book. So of course it's being used in Chicago, where old tricks seem to work out fairly well for the tricksters. But this is not to say, as I said at the outset, that, none of these nonprofits are, not just in Chicago, but generally speaking, add value. I mean, it's more, and I know you're not saying that. I just want to make this clear. It's more like you've got to look at inputs and outputs and get independent measurements that you can really pinpoint what the program does and what the direct results are before you just sort of fall in love with the marketing of what we hope will occur with support of this program.
Yeah. I think where a lot of people I spoke to are landing, like, I just want to say the stories that I heard about in Chicago are so upsetting and so tragic. The poverty is immense. I was hearing things like public elementary schools that don't have a library, which is very upsetting and troubling. But where a lot of people are landing that I spoke to is that they want to see investment in kids, and that no one quite knows what to do about these young adults once they already are in gangs. But they want to see investment in kids, things like summer programs, because if you're a kid and after, school really is a safe haven for a lot of these kids. I think everyone knows and understands that sometimes it's the only place, a kid might have access to a meal or maybe at least a snack or something. And most of the advocates I spoke to who are doing community violence intervention work but are not being paid for it, but are really having an impact in their communities, they said that kids need places to go where there are safe adults and they can have a connection and someone who's keeping track of them, like once school gets out and during the summer too.
Yeah, no, I mean, some of the people you spoke to are pretty good and pretty candid perspectives, which is always nice. I mean, I can imagine some of these individuals you spoke to, and because I've spoken to some of them too, and you start talking about these programs and they just roll their eyes. They're like, and especially, former gang members who actually know really what the deal is. They see many of these programs as completely farcical. And so that's the point is just to separate the wheat from the chaff here. But we have so many do-gooders or and I'll give them the benefit of the doubt of motivations, that are just so interested in telling this story, regardless of whether the facts support the story. And this just becomes sort of a running problem.
Yeah, well, it's a big business. I mean,
yes,
as I said, it's $1 billion industry, and so you're going to have all sorts of players in the field. I will say that I met some incredible people throughout this reporting process, like people who would probably, who are gang royalty, but have really changed their lives and are a part of these programs. And really, I think most people I spoke to really believe in the concept of community violence intervention. But then when I would ask them, like, would this have helped you? They're kind of like, prison was really the only way, that I was able to get my act together.
Olivia Reingold, staff writer at the Free Press. The piece, What Happens When You Pay Ex-Gang Members to Stop Crime? Ask Chicago. Olivia, great piece. Thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And she joined us on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper, hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Are you turning 65 and thinking about Medicare? Or are you over 65 and haven't enrolled yet because you still have coverage at work? Either way, Medicare done correctly will be the best health insurance you will ever have. Imagine having an annual deductible of only $283. There are only two good things about aging, wisdom and Medicare. But to navigate the Medicare maze properly, you need a mentor. Best part? My guidance costs you nothing. Call me. I can help.
If you're tired of calling a bureaucrat at an 800 number to help you navigate Medicare, then you need a local expert on your side, your own health insurance mentor. C. Stephen Tucker from healthinsurancementors.com is someone I know and trust. He's a 30-year licensed broker who's been educating our listeners for more than a decade. Steve, how can our listeners get in touch with you?
Thanks, Dan. They can visit healthinsurancementors.com or call me directly at 630-674-1551. That's 630-674-1551.
We work a lifetime to build a legacy for our families, but the most enduring gift you can give them is the peace of mind you provide when they need it most. When you pre-plan your arrangements at Catholic Cemeteries of Chicago, you replace the weight of uncertainty with the gift of clarity. Secure today's costs and protect your family from making emotional and financial decisions at the time of need. It's a final act of love they'll never forget. Visit CatholicCemeteryChicago.org or call 708-236-5407.
AM 560, The Answer.
That sound means it's time for In-Depth History with Frank, the history teacher from Arlington Heights, because there's nothing new in this world, just the history you don't know, and Frank does. Frank, take it away.
Good morning. Michelangelo Buonarroti, one of the four great Italian Renaissance artists, overcame quite a bit. His mother died when he was 6, and then he lived in another household for care. It was here that he learned about stone cutting, but also had a knack for drawing. Finding out about this strange habit, his father and brothers tried to beat it out of him. Yet Michelangelo persisted with his God-given talent. Famous first for crafting a 17-foot marble sculpture of biblical David from a piece of already used marble, which was unheard of, his rival Raphael conspired to keep him from revamping St. Peter's Basilica by giving him the Sistine Chapel ceiling to paint, a medium at the time that Michelangelo was not expected to excel in. Thankfully, Raphael erred here. In the 1970s, actor Larry Hagman, at that point most known for his role as Major Tony Nelson in I Dream of Jeannie, had difficulty finding a new role after success with that show because of rumored problems with drinking. Then, what was designed to be a secondary role, that of conniving son J.R. Ewing, emerged on a new drama series called Dallas. Hagman took that role and turned it into one of the most iconic villains in TV history. Renowned historian of the Roman Empire, Edward Gibbon, once said that man has much more to fear from the passions of his fellow creatures than from the convulsions of the elements. Governor Pritzker's recent interview suggests how true this is, as he signaled that he hopes to lead a national government that prosecutes and sues his political opponents into oblivion. Fictional J.R. Ewing, of course, is well known for this statement: once you give up your integrity, everything else is a piece of cake. We sure know JB likes cake. Hopefully, Darren Bailey can convince Illinois that he is the one who can lead Illinois with integrity. He has the help now of Rick Heidner. who evidently paid his first business loan back in person every month. JB's downfall would definitely be a work of art, and most importantly, it would be an embarrassment to him, just like the Sistine Chapel was, ironically, to Raphael.
Very good. Boy, I tell you, Michelangelo, Larry Hagman, and Darren Bailey. I mean, that's a great Karnak setup right there. That's that is some range. And the prospects that JB has anything to fear seem to be dim, as he's now openly campaigning for president, as per Project 2029, and talking very candidly about his desire to see lawfare not only continued from the Biden years, but scaled.
Well, I think his best move, JB's best move, was getting rid of, taking off the table Kirk Dillard, who now I think serves as dog catcher for him. And, because if he would be helping out Bailey's campaign, remember that Kirk Dillard was once Jim Edgar's chief of staff.
That is
that, I think, would have helped out the campaign a lot.
I think that continues to be my favorite local impersonation you do. I mean, you're not just our history go-to guy. You're also sort of our local Frank Caliendo. And
I'm beginning to like my Rick Heidner imitation too. He helped his mom when he was young, and he worked hard. He did.
Frank from Arlington Heights, wonderful as always. It is now 7 o'clock on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
Can they talk their way out of the conflict? I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News.
President Trump, time and time again, has tried to give the Iranians an off-ramp, even before this war began. And he's trying to do so again, understanding that there are still thousands of U.S. forces on the way.
Fox's Trey Yingst reports from Tel Aviv, where there is new Iranian missile damage, that a U.S.-Iran meeting may be set up this week in Pakistan as the fighting continues.
Israeli air defense systems were working throughout the night to intercept this incoming fire. They were able to take down some of the ballistic missiles, but others had those cluster munitions on top. We could see the debris and bomblets raining down over the skies of Tel Aviv. Now, the Israelis say they have just launched a new wave of strikes against Iran just in the last hour, trying to destroy what is left of the military structure of the Iranian regime.
Now to the Senate.
The ayes are 54, the nays are 45. The nomination of Mark Wayne Mullen of Oklahoma to be Secretary of Homeland Security is confirmed.
And Mullen will be sworn in today, but his department remains mostly unfunded for more than a month, leading to longer and longer airport security lines as more unpaid TSA agents skip work. And Fox's Mike Emanuel reports from the White House there is a funding compromise being discussed as Democrats keep demanding immigration enforcement reforms.
Among the ideas proposed by the White House, expansion of the use of body cameras, new limits on enforcement operations in sensitive places such as hospitals and schools, additional Homeland Security oversight in the form of mandatory Inspector General audits. Officers will visibly wear ID and say their names if asked, and adherence to laws against the deportation or detention of U.S. citizens.
Police in Washington, D.C. are looking for two suspects in the ambush shooting of a park police officer last night.
The officer was undercover in a Tesla investigating an earlier incident when two men opened fire. The officer drove himself away from the scene and was treated at the hospital for non-life-threatening injuries.
That's Fox's Carly Shimkus. America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning. It is 32 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the QC Kinetics newsroom. A Chicago man is charged with threatening to shoot up a synagogue. Fox's Gary Baumgarten has the story.
Federal prosecutors say 31-year-old Timothy Holmes replied to an X posting by the Israeli government with a threat to shoot up a synagogue. They say an investigation revealed additional threatening communications from Holmes' account. The federal complaint also alleges he doxed an Israeli government official. Over the government's objection, a federal judge ordered Holmes released on bond. Gary Baumgarten, Fox News.
There's been plenty of reaction following the recent firing of one of Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson's top aides. Former Deputy Mayor of Public Safety Garion Gatewood was terminated late last week. 19th Ward Alderman Matt O'Shea says the city official was very influential in driving down crime in Chicago. He added that Gatewood was present during teen takeovers and was supportive of families who lost loved ones. Meanwhile, anti-crime advocate Reverend Sierra Bates Chamberlain says the timing of the firing is quite upsetting. She mentions that as the weather gets warmer, we traditionally see an uptick in violence here in the city. The Johnson administration says it remains fully committed to making sure they continue their commitment to public safety. They add that Jason Sanford will serve as interim deputy mayor of community safety. A bus driver is in custody in connection with a charter bus crash that happened Sunday night that sent more than 30 people to the hospital in Green Bay. 37-year-old Gabriel Figueroa was booked on one count of operating while revoked, causing great bodily harm. He's the man who was driving 50 passengers from Chicago to a casino in Michigan when he drove over an embankment and nearly hit a building. Figueroa's Facebook page lists him as the owner of Lucky Charter and Tours, which is based in Wheeling, Illinois. He's expected to appear in court later today. This report is a service of the daily podcast of Chicago's Morning Answer and the Sean Thompson Show. Hear both shows with limited commercials when you subscribe for free to the daily podcast at 560theanswer.com/podcast. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
Mike Gallagher finds it hard to believe.
CNN describes the two terrorists in New York City as two teenagers from Pennsylvania who crossed into New York City Saturday morning for what could have been a normal day. Before they threw a bomb and tried to blow up a bunch of people. It almost becomes impossible to believe.
The Mike Gallagher Show, weekdays at 9 on AM 560, The Answer.
If you don't care about saving 50% off your wireless bill for the same 5G coverage the big guys are charging a fortune for, maybe you care about keeping jobs in America. Pure Talk does. They've pledged to run their entire operation from this country, including all their customer service. Or maybe you care about our nation's veterans. Pure Talk does. They've donated hundreds of thousands of dollars to America's Warrior Partnership, a fantastic organization working hard to prevent veteran suicide. Or maybe you care about closing America's skills gap. Pure Talk does. They're a proud supporter of MicroWorks. They're helping my foundation train the next generation of skilled workers. Don't get me wrong. Saving money's great, and you'll save plenty with Pure Talk. But if you want to be in business with people who share your values, dial pound 250, say Micro, and switch to an American wireless company that actually stands for something. Pure Talk.
Why does Progressive love protecting truckers? Because truckers unite the world. Truckers unite candles and yoga instructors. Truckers unite fake plants with people who shouldn't own living plants. Truckers unite French press coffee makers with the most pretentious person you know. But truckers can't do any of this if they're not on the road. That's why Progressive now offers truckers even more protection on cargo with its enhanced Cargo Plus coverage. Get a quote in as little as 8 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Coverage subject to policy terms, limits, and conditions. Not available in California.
The Tunnel to Towers Foundation honors America's heroes and their families, heroes like Scott Abrams. Now, for more than 3 decades, Scott served his community and country while he was on his NYPD motorcycle escorting a funeral procession. Scott was hit by a bus, leaving him partially paralyzed. Tunnel to Towers was able to honor Scott with a mortgage-free smart home. Please join us supporting the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. If you can donate $11 a month, go to their website, the letter T, the number 2, the letter T.org.
Wesley is a truck driver.
I drive a truck, and I love what I do.
A truck driver with IRS troubles.
They told me I owed them $43,000.
It got really bad.
Quite a few letters in the mail. They were talking about wage garnishment, coming after my house, my car. Yeah, they don't play around. I seriously thought that I was going to lose everything.
One sleepless night, Wesley finally made a call to Optima Tax Relief at 2 a.m.
Kind of figured I'd get a machine, but I didn't. I actually got to talk to an actual person in the middle of the night.
He found just what he was looking for.
Oh, they were great people. You need a team of people that know what they're doing. Optima Tax, they know what they're doing.
Optima Tax Relief came through with flying colors.
I saved an incredible amount of money. Happy don't even come close. I was absolutely overjoyed.
Take Wesley's advice.
If you're in any kind of trouble with the IRS, call Optima Tax Relief. Don't trust anybody else.
Call Optima for a free consultation. Call 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. Optima Tax Relief. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. 15 minutes both ways on the Edens from Lake Cook to Montrose. The Kennedy inbound from O'Hare to the Burn interchange is 26 minutes. Outbound is 28. We're stop and go on the northbound Tri-State between the Reagan Memorial and the outbound Ike. Now on the Ike, you do have 27 minutes inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office. Outbound is 19. 36 in, 25 out on the Stevenson from Veterans Memorial to Lakeshore. And it's 19 minutes inbound on the Dan Ryan lane from 95th to the Burn interchange. Outbound, just 11 minutes. It's looking pretty good. This report is a service of Goldilocks, offering Chicagoland state-of-the-art smart security systems to protect your home or business. AM 560 listeners receive 3 months of monitoring free with new installs. Get peace of mind by calling Goldilocks at 708-889-5600. Again, that's 708-889-5600. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now the latest forecast from the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today, expect a mix of clouds and sun with a high of 52. Tonight will be mostly cloudy with a low of 39. Tomorrow will be warmer with a mix of sun and clouds and a high of 68. Thursday will be very warm with a transition from sunshine to clouds, leading to a chance of afternoon showers and a heavy thunderstorm. The high on Thursday will reach 73. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. President Trump, before he took off for Memphis, and that included a visit to Graceland. The one king I think we can all acknowledge. Before he did that, he addressed the assembled press corps on the tarmac, answered questions about Iran, including his calling off strikes against Iranian power plants for now. 5-day clock that he put Iran on to come to some terms with respect to specific things, starting with the nuclear program. Otherwise, the bombings will continue until their morale improves.
They want very much to make a deal. We'd like to make a deal, too. We're going to get together today by probably phone because it's very hard to find a country. It's very hard for them to get out, I guess. But we'll at some point very, very soon meet. We're doing a 5-day period. We'll see how that goes. And if it goes well, we're going to end up with settling this. Otherwise, we'll just keep bombing our little hearts out.
Bombing our little hearts out. Okay. Trump also added that he's not willing to disclose the Iranian leader with whom they're speaking for fear of that person being taken out. But that he's essentially intimated that regime change has already taken place because whoever it is they're speaking with, it's not the gay cardboard Ayatollah.
Mr. President, a top person. Don't forget, we've wiped out the leadership phase 1, phase 2, and largely phase 3. But we're dealing with the man who I believe is the most respected and the leader. It's a little tough. We've wiped out everybody. Is that the Supreme Leader? No, not the Supreme Leader. So we don't. Well, nobody heard of the second Supreme Leader, the Son. Are these direct? Nobody. We have not heard from the Son. Every once in a while, you see a statement made, but we have not. We don't know if he's living. But the people that seem to be running it, and they seem that based on really fact, because things they've said have taken place. Mr. President, again, Mr. President, I know you've deployed. Because I don't want him to be killed.
And here's what Trump said on what he wants as part of any deal for a ceasefire, effectively, at least as step one.
You said you want to get the enriched uranium. How are you going to get it?
No nuclear bomb, no nuclear weapon, not even close to it. Low key on the missiles. We want to see peace in the Middle East. We want the nuclear dust. We're going to want that. And I think we're going to get that. Uranium? We've agreed to that. Yeah, we've agreed to that.
You want the enriched uranium before you can end this?
We want no enrichment, but we also want the enriched uranium. If this happens, it's a great start for Iran to build itself back, and it's everything that we want. And it's also great for Israel, and it's great for the other Middle Eastern countries, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, all of them. Kuwait and Bahrain in particular, so it's great for all of them.
So a no nuclear program, a low key on the missiles. That's going to need some more definition. And we want their enriched uranium. How are we going to get it? We're just going to go in there and get it if it's agreed to.
You said you want to get the enriched uranium. How are you going to get the enriched uranium? Are you going to
It's very easy. If we have a deal with them, we're going down and we'll take it ourselves.
And one more piece, of course, the Strait of Hormuz and the resumption of maritime traffic through said strait.
Thank you.
What about the Strait of Hormuz? Who's going to be in control of that?
That'll be opened very soon if this works.
How soon? And who's in control of it? Will Iran still be able to control the flow of oil?
Be jointly controlled.
By who?
Maybe me. Maybe me.
You want the United States to be in control?
Me and the Ayatollah, whoever the Ayatollah is, whoever the next Ayatollah. Look, and there'll also be a form of a very serious form of a regime change. Now, in all fairness, everybody's been killed from the regime. They're really starting off. There's automatically a regime change. But we're dealing with some people that I find to be very reasonable, very solid. The people within know who they are. They're very respected. And maybe one of them will be exactly what we're looking for.
Perhaps. I thought we didn't want another Ayatollah, though, for real regime change, something of a more secular variety. But it's hard to know since we don't exactly know whom Trump's representatives are speaking with. For more on all of this, pleased to be joined again by Taki Theodorakopoulos, longtime Spectator columnist, co-founder of the American Conservative, and author of the new book, The Last Alpha Male, The Amorous Pursuits and High Life of a Poor Little Greek Boy. Taki, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Very much for having me. I haven't been up so early since I was young. Since I was in school.
Well, there you go. Recapturing your lost youth this morning.
Yes, exactly.
I read your piece in The Spectator, and you see this, this is going to be interesting, you see this playing out more like a Shakespearean tragedy, talking about Benjamin Netanyahu as Iago to Trump's Othello. Explain.
Yes. Well, as you know, Iago whispered a lot of things against Desdemona, and Othello believed and killed his wife. I just think I'm convinced. I'm not convinced of anything anymore, but I think that we did go to war. We did go to war because the Israelis were going to go at it alone, and they're our allies, and that Netanyahu has pushed for this war, and with Likud has pushed for this war for us since time immemorial. And when I voted for Trump, I didn't know I was voting for Netanyahu. And basically, I think that the Israelis are running American foreign policy where the Middle East is concerned, mind you. You know, I remember when James Burns and Dean Acheson and John Foster Dulles, they made their mistakes, but they were very respected, diplomats. Now, to have Witkoff, who's a real estate shark, and Kushner, who's his son-in-law, and the only thing I remember him from was he took a wonderful weekly newspaper, which I worked in, and he drove it to the ground, the New York Observer. Anyway, I just think it's amateur stuff, and we should read the Riot Act to Netanyahu and tell him they're our closest allies there, but stop killing people in the West Bank. The settlers are acting in ways that I'm just writing about it this week. Unbelievable. You cannot act this way toward human beings. These are the settlers, not the Israeli public. The Israeli public is actually, most of them that I've spoken to are appalled at what the settlers are doing in the West Bank. But, you know, the country gets a reputation from its extremists. So I'm not so sure. I'm glad that Iran, if what Trump is saying is true, but I don't think the Israelis will sort of go for anything unless it's total surrender. And why should a country like Iran, which is 2,500 years old, surrender to what I call only the Likud party of Israel? Israel has done tremendous things, but Likud is an expansionist and very, very undemocratic party as far as I'm concerned.
But it just, I mean, looking at the landscape, even prior to the military strikes that began 3 weeks ago, three and a half weeks ago, it is much different, both for the Iranians as well as the relationship between the United States and many of those Gulf states, and even Israel and many of those Gulf states, the Abraham Accords, for example, the bombings last June of the Israeli nuclear program, and frankly, after October 7th, the crippling of Hezbollah and Hamas, and with Americans, with the American engagement, also to some extent the Houthis, these Iranian proxies. So, and also Iran as a chess piece with with respect to the Chinese Communist Party. I mean, there's a lot of different dynamics, it seems to me, that have led up to the moment that began 3.5 weeks ago, as compared to any other time over the last 47 years of this regime's existence, that provide perhaps opportunity to reshape the Middle East in a more productive and peaceful way, and also back the Chinese Communist Party's saber rattling down a bit.
I'm afraid you're absolutely right, Dad. And I'm not saying it because you run the program. I never understood how suicidal this Iran regime became, because all they had to do is, obviously, I'm on the side of displaced Palestinians, but at the same time, you cannot finance and take, well, they're the ones who, and arm all those parties which are against Israel. You can do it in a peaceful way, and Israel might one day listen to reason, but you cannot win by backing Hezbollah and arming. Look what happened. They lost Syria. Iran has lost everywhere. They lost Lebanon. They lost everywhere where they mix. They continue to do the same thing. This is the Ayatollahs. So whether I like it or not, I think maybe what Trump and Netanyahu have done now might turn out to be some reasonable Iranian government.
Well, the interesting... Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
Well, the other interesting thing about this, too, is the Iranian response, and sort of to date, has only alienated itself from other Gulf states that much more. In fact, Mark Dubowitz over at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies posted that of the missile strikes the Iranians have launched, 87% of them, more than 5,500, have been strikes against Arab countries. 13% of them, only 800, have been strikes against Israel. So what Iran has done is bring those Gulf state actors even closer to America and Israel.
Absolutely, exactly. But that's what I that's what I meant. You think that the Iranians are working for the Israelis and the Americans. I don't understand what goes through their minds. How can you attack the people like in Qatar, who are your closest allies? And they even bomb Qatar, which supports them anyway. It's a madhouse. My heart goes out only because I've been there. I've covered those refugee camps. People who have been there since 1948, 4 generations in refugee camps. I feel for them, and I've always written about them. But I'm certainly not for these madmen who are the Ayatollahs. I just think maybe Trump can pull a rabbit out of his hat. I don't know. Things are very strange for me, Dan, because I never get up before midday, and to be up so early, even the Ayatollahs seem to make sense.
We'll try not to overload. Yeah, we'll try not to overload your synapses here.
Not at all. No. You've been a very gracious host. I've been to Chicago 3 times. I've appeared in TV shows when I was younger, and I had a very good time. And it was wonderful, sunny, and anyway, I had a good time. I have very good souvenirs, if you know what I mean, from Chicago.
Okay.
Very pretty girl.
Oh, really? A very pretty girl.
Very pretty girl, yeah. Well, She must be an old lady by now.
Wow. Boy, I want to hear about the adventures of that poor little Greek boy that you wrote about. Now this is getting interesting. Now, if you do come back to Chicago in the near term, see if you can stay with a friend. Maybe that's a very pretty girl, because we just upped our hotel taxes again to the highest in the country, so it's getting a little expensive.
Oh
to stay
my
here.
God! You have a very expensive mayor. Why? What is he trying to do?
Yeah, well, that's something that people have been trying to figure out for the last 3 years. Nobody's got a great answer. Yeah.
Tell him he should go over to Iran.
Right. Yeah, right.
Thank you very much for having me. And you've been a very gracious host, and you allowed me to say something which is not very popular in America.
No, that's okay. That's what we like to have, dissenting opinions here and hash things out. I enjoy it, and especially with a Shakespearean metaphor to boot. I mean, that's always fun. Taki Theodore Akropolis. Long-time spectator columnist, co-founder of the American Conservatives, author of the new book, The Last Alpha Male, The Amorous Pursuits and High Life of a Poor Little Greek Boy, as we were just getting a glimpse of. Wonderful. Taki, thanks so much for joining us. We do appreciate it.
Thank you.
And he joins us on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Chicagoland certified financial planning professional Tim Stearns discusses taxes in retirement.
Most people are paying more in taxes and keeping less of their money to live and do what they enjoy. That's why we've put out the Retirement Tax Bill Calculator online. You can see with your own eyes just how much you might be overpaying. It's a valuable tool, $500 value, but we made it free for you to view and run your own numbers at MVPCFP.com. That's MVPCFP.com.
To run your retirement tax bill calculator, go to MVPCFP.com.
Investment advisory services offered through Cornerstone Securities, LLC.
Welcome to another edition of Tuesdays with Tim. My friend Tim Stearns, a certified financial planner with TJ Stearns Financial Planning in Arlington Heights. Tim, how are you? Welcome back.
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
So, Tim, let's check in on how you've been helping clients achieve financial security and peace of mind. Perhaps you have a story or two, a success story or two, an example of how you've helped clients recently.
I remember I had a neighbor who, believe it or not, was a longtime listener to your show. And he had come up to me in the yard and said he wanted to stop and smell the roses and kind of get out of his job. He was done taking the train downtown to Chicago every day and basically working 60 hours a week for a company that didn't really care about him or his family. So we started running numbers, and lo and behold, he was able to retire 5 years earlier. He's now 12 years retired. He's a grandpa. He's loving life. He, too, needed a protect and grow blueprint, and he had to make sure he wasn't leaving anything to chance for their future.
Thank you, Tim. If you're in your 50s or 60s, I want you to speak with my friend Tim Stearns, TJ Stearns Financial Planning. Tim will help you structure and optimize your savings to prepare for 20 to 30 years of enjoyable retirement. Call Tim today to schedule your free consultation and get your free Protect and Grow blueprint. Call 1-800-640-2256. Again, that number, 800-640-2256. Tell them I sent you when you call Tim at 800-640-2256.
Israel, a hot topic right now. Hi, it's Chris Stigall. So many opinions around Israel, emotions. I can understand why it feels hard to know where to start. I like to start with the Bible. Scripture tells us, I will bless those who bless you. And that's not just a comforting promise, it's a clear calling from God. So today, with anti-Semitism on the rise, that calling is more urgent than ever. At a time when Jewish communities are experiencing more hostility, more threats, and more violence than ever, Christians have a powerful opportunity to respond with God's love, to say, you're not alone. When Christians choose to bless Israel, we're not entering into some political issue. We're honoring the root of our faith and standing against hatred. Supporting Israel is more than a belief. It's a biblical mandate. And by partnering with the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, you can push back against the darkness and be a light to God's people. Learn how you can bless Israel at ifcj.org. Live the word. Answer the call. ifcj.org.
For months, you've been hearing ads about Virago Immune Support. I have to tell you, this stuff is for real. I had an occasion to not be feeling well on a remote broadcast. I took it, and it is the real deal. And the stronger your immune system, the stronger your body defends against diseases, viruses, and everything else. That's why Dr. Huber created Virago, a liquid immune booster supplement. You take it daily. It's a blend of 23 nutraceuticals working in synergy. to maximize effects and boost your immune system. It's the nutraceutical cocktail for an immune system, antiviral, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant. Virago even protects your heart, your kidneys, your liver, all in a unique liquid supplement for better absorption. Do yourself and your spouse a favor. Order a bottle of Virago today online at myvirago.com. That's myvirago.com. Use coupon code IMMUNE to save 30%. Maha and Virago, making America healthy again.
The smartest self-defense decision is not made in the moment. It's made before danger ever appears, because when you pull a firearm trigger, well, you're not just stopping a threat. You may be starting a chain of legal, financial, emotional consequences that can follow you for years. Now, that's why more responsible Americans are choosing to lead with a less lethal option that is effective. That's where Byrna, their less lethal launchers, it fires tear gas, kinetic rounds, pepper spray. It's designed to stop any attacker for up to 40 minutes. And it gives you time to escape. It gives you time to create distance and get help without using deadly force. Now, Byrna's best-selling compact launcher is sleek, it's slim, it's incredibly powerful. It's built for discreet, everyday carry. No background check. They can ship it directly to your door. Protect yourself, protect your family, protect your future. Start with less lethal. Visit byrna.com today and find the right launcher for you and your family. That's byrna.com today.
AM 560, The Answer.
Dan Proft here. This was an interesting call and awkward moment during a spring training game between the Twins and the Braves. I think the announcer is referring to Byron Buxton. I think that's who was at the plate when he made this call.
It's a good start for the Twins here in the fourth inning. You ever seen Buck with his pants down? No. Like in shorts? No, like he doesn't have his, no socks showing. Ah, I see what you're saying. So, yeah.
Whoa. I mean, that's, I don't know when Peter Graves started calling Twins games.
You ever been in a cockpit before?
No, sir, I've never been up in a plane before.
You ever seen a grown man naked? Joey, you like movies about gladiators?
Yeah, so he was referring to the pants legs being down, but he just said pants down, and thus the confusion from his broadcasting partner. That was a fun moment. How would Brockmeyer have handled that? All right, coming up at 7:37, all things Illinois policy related, starting with the murder of Sheridan Gorman and a op-ed from our friend Joe Abraham about said murder. We'll start there with Mark Lennon, WirePoints, wirepoints.org, 7:37. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It is 32 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the QC Kinetics newsroom. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement is asking Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker and Chicago officials to not release a Venezuelan migrant charged with killing a Loyola University student. 25-year-old Jose Medina was arrested and charged with the murder of 18-year-old Sheridan Gorman. Prosecutors say Medina missed a scheduled court appearance yesterday because he was in the hospital being treated for an undisclosed illness. Authorities are investigating the cause of a house fire in north suburban Mundelein that left a 4-year-old child dead. That blaze broke out early yesterday in a home in the 200 block of Dalton Avenue. Firefighters later found the child in the basement. The victim was pronounced dead at the scene. Lake County Coroner's Office identified the boy as Christopher Alfaro Rodriguez. An autopsy shows that he died from smoke inhalation. And a food delivery robot has gone viral after it crashed into a CTA bus shelter, smashing the glass. Thankfully, no one was at the stop at the time of the robot's accident, and the robot will be okay. News is a service of American Beam and Steel, structural repair licensed contractors for your home and business. Search for American Beam and Steel online to schedule your consultation directly with the owner, Mark. American Beam and Steel. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560, The Answer.
Alex Marlowe does see a legit scandal.
I'm kind of amazed by this scandal that has rocked the Department of Homeland Security. Kristi Noem is out. I saw this. I was aware of it, but I have to admit, and this is a big admission, I did not do a deep dive on it. And I have in the last 24 hours, and it is shocking. It is a legitimate scandal.
The Alex Marlowe Show. Afternoons at 3, right before Sean Thompson at 4 on AM 560. The Answer.
It's Reveille.
It took 4 days before Governor Pritzker finally put out a statement about the horrific murder of Sheridan Gorman, a Loyola student shot allegedly by a criminal illegal alien. 4 days. The story made national news as soon as the murder took place. Sheridan Gorman was out late at night with friends enjoying the view of the Chicago skyline when a masked man took aim at the group and shot her. She died on the spot. Once reports came out that the alleged murderer was here illegally and had an arrest record, the story went viral, only to be ignored by both Pritzker and Mayor Johnson. When Pritzker finally put out a statement, he called the murder senseless. And then he went after President Trump, calling for him to stop politicizing heinous tragedies and instead focus on real solutions like reinstating federal funds to prevent violence to support our public safety efforts. The last part of Pritzker's statement is outrageous. According to an investigative report in the Free Press by Olivia Reingold, Governor Pritzker has spent nearly $770 million of taxpayer money to employ ex-gangbangers and subsidize nonprofits working on violence prevention. It's a scam, and the money could have gone to local law enforcement instead. The media blew it too when reporting on the murder. The Sun-Times practically blamed the victim for being out late with friends along the lakefront, writing the headline, "Wrong place, wrong time." Someone should ask the editors at the Sun-Times, are there now no-go zones in the city where only the criminals are allowed to hang out? The Chicago Tribune called the murderer simply a man from Rogers Park and took days to write that he was here illegally. Both Pritzker and the media know the Sanctuary State Law and Safety Act have failed the law-abiding. They must be repealed, but that won't happen until the voters take the current radicals out of office. I'm Jeannie Ives. Listen to The Real Story Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. and sign up for my newsletter at breakthrough-ideas.com.
Hair Volume from New Nordic will make your hair look thick and healthy. Hair Volume is available online at Amazon and newnordicusa.com or in the hair care aisle at your local CVS.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. 16 minutes both ways on the Edens from Lake Cook to Montrose. Stop and go on the Kennedy inbound between Cumberland Avenue and Nagel Avenue, and then the outbound side slows down into Manheim Road. So 47 minutes inbound from O'Hare to the Byrne Interchange. Outbound is 31. Stop and go on the Ike inbound between First Avenue and Western Avenue. 32 minutes from Wolf to the Old Post Office inbound. Outbound is 21 minutes. Stop and go on the Stevenson inbound between Harlem Avenue and Western Avenue. So we're looking at 36 minutes in from Veterans Memorial to Lakeshore. Outbound is 28. 18 in on the Dan Ryan from 95th to the Byrne Interchange. Outbound is 11. Stop and go on Lakeshore Drive northbound between Bryn Mawr Avenue and Hollywood Avenue. This report is sponsored by WeatherBug. Get the fastest local alerts and accurate 24/7 forecasts with WeatherBug. It's easy to use and provides real-time customizable alerts so the weather never takes you by surprise. Plan every day with confidence. Download the free WeatherBug app from the App Store now. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now the latest forecast from the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today, expect a mix of clouds and sunshine with a high of 52. Tonight will be mostly cloudy with a low of 39. Tomorrow will be warmer with a combination of sun and clouds, reaching a high of 68. Thursday is set to be very warm, transitioning from sunny skies to clouds with a chance of a few afternoon showers and a heavy thunderstorm. The high temperature will be 73. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Goldilocks, offering 24/7 security solutions for homes and businesses. Call them today at 708-889-5600.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
Insert Democrat socialist here.
Runs the Democratic House law for 30 plus years running. He's promising this and he's stealing that. Where can you get that kind of money? He's using your house like his own piggy bank. You ought to know by now. You can pay off your house here in Illinois, but you can never keep up with the taxes. Oh, how it's always been the plan to have a taxpayer pay, no doubt. Not a matter of if anymore, but when. You're moving out. I said, when you're moving out.
Hear that theme music means it's time for our weekly conversation with the wirepoints.org boys, all things Illinois policy related. BLM Brandon JB's buddy BJ sat down for a one-on-one with Craig Wall of ABC 7. Not the I team, just Craig Wall. And it was mainly just, it was terribly mundane. There's basically one question that was just asked over and over again in different ways. Are you going to run for re-election? But, of course, BLM Brandon gave some inadvertently hilarious answers.
Because I know that there are some folks who are politicking already. That's, I understand it. I do. But when people see me all over the city of Chicago, they're not asking about my re-election.
No, I'm sure they're not. Not for the reason you think. They're certainly not asking about your re-election because they don't anticipate there's going to be one. But okay. Craig Wall pressed him on it because apparently there's nothing else to talk about, certainly not the quality of life in Chicago.
Well, right now my plan is to continue to drive violence down in the city of Chicago to make sure that we're investing in communities. As I've said repeatedly, there will be plenty of time for politics.
A lot of people do both at the same time.
Yeah, and I've done both at the same time. As a Cook County Commissioner, I was governing and I ran for mayor, so it's clear that I know how to multitask. I can govern and run for something. I've done it multiple times. Not only have I done it multiple times, I've won every time.
Mm-hmm. Should there be a concern among your supporters that maybe you're waiting too long to make an announcement and to fully engage in re-election plans?
Well, what we saw in this last election cycle, you saw people spend multiple millions, right? And it's evident that money alone does not guarantee someone's success.
Well, that's true. I suppose he's talking about Raja losing to Juliana Stratton or Brendan Riley getting hammered by Tony Preckwinkle. But, both sides were spending multiple millions. And the question was in the context of Brandon Johnson in the most recent reporting period has raised $58,000 and failed mob banker and professional Obama rebounder and general soy boy Mimbo Ali G has raised $12 million, for example. Mm-hmm. So it could be a problem. But fear not, because BLM Brandon doesn't get bossed around by donors. Unless it's the Chicago Teachers Union.
We have seen many high-profile donors in this city who have been bosses of previous mayors, right? The difference for me right now is that I'm not bossed by the same people who are trying to boss the electorate. I'm not going to do it, and I'm not going to stand for it.
Not going to do it. Not going to stand for it. I'm not being bossed by those people. I'm bossed by CTU, AFSCME, and SEIU. You understand? And we're the ones that are actually in charge. And actually, he's right about that. The prospects of, I know this is the focus of the political dilettante set. Who's going to replace Brandon Johnson next year, or who's going to run and who isn't? And of course, nobody's asking the question: is there a difference that it's going to make? Why? Because we could replace somebody who is a virulent race hustler with somebody who is less so. Which candidate that is circulating interest in running next year for mayor? Since apparently nobody's going to pay attention to the statewide races. Midterms don't mean anything here. Fascinating. But of the candidates circulating interest for running in running for mayor next year, who opposes sanctuary policies? Anybody want to ask that question against the backdrop of Sheridan Gorman's murder? I know one person does. Joe Abraham, father of Katie Abraham, friend of the show, who wrote this piece over at Fox News. My daughter was killed, and I warned sanctuary city policy would cost lives again. I've spoken to lawmakers. I've sat for interviews on national television. I wrote and spoke wherever I was given the opportunity, not because I wanted attention, but because I believe deeply that what happened to my daughter was not an isolated tragedy. It was a warning. I said that if nothing changed, it would happen again. And now, just over a year later, another family is living that nightmare at the hands of Illinois sanctuary policies. When I first began speaking out, Abraham writes, some people listened. Others told me that what happened to my daughter was rare, that it should not shape broader policy, that the system, while imperfect, was working as intended. But how many times does something have to happen before we stop calling it rare? Well, that's a great question. And with respect to the majority of the Chicago electorate, I have no idea what that number is, or even if there's a number. Is it infinity? At least as long as Trump is in office? I don't know. And you can't put it all on TDS because they'll just erect new boogeymen to sustain the same policies when Trump leaves the scene. For more on this, let's be joined now by Mark Glennon, the founder of wirepoints.org. Mark, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Dan. And, it's great to see this issue getting national news, maybe locally. Our press and public officials would like to ignore it, but hopefully the national pressure is going to have some effect here.
One could hope, although, I mean, when you have statements like this one from Maria Haddon, who is the alderhuman representing the Rogers Park ward in which Sheridan Gorman was murdered, I don't know.
Well, from what I've been told so far, right, from what police know, from speaking to the students who were with her, it seems she might have, that as they were just out, people go out to the beach all the time, right? And they go out on the pier, they walk around. So the kids were out doing normal things people do in the neighborhood. And it sounds like this might have been a wrong place, wrong time, running into a person who had a gun. They might have startled this person at the end of the pier unintentionally. But that's all we know. So it from what I've been told, what police investigation has turned up so far, what they've been able to share with me and with Loyola University, we don't believe there is cause for broader community concern.
No, don't be concerned. But hey, just listen. If you're out enjoying yourself on the beach, the pier, you want to go see the Northern Lights, just make sure you're walking on eggshells because you don't want to startle any illegal alien with a gun and an itchy trigger finger. Mark.
Yeah, but there's blood on the hands of these people. That's not an understatement. That's the way it's got to be put. The Federalist has had several very good commentary pieces on this, and I just love the headlines on these. I was just going through these. This was not a random misfortune. There's blood on Pritzker's hands. Again, it goes beyond Pritzker, of course. It goes to all these people supporting sanctuary policies. Another young Democrat woman is dead because Democrats imported her alleged killer. That's, absolutely true. They brought in all these people with an open borders policy, no resistance. And then finally, another one is a bit about Pritzker signaling that he may not turn over the shooter to ICE. And indeed, the sanctuary policy would seem to prohibit that. It's just jaw-dropping, and there's blood on their hands.
If you come for Pritzker's people, you have to come through him, Mark. So that's how it's got to be here. And so now going back to the mayor's race, I mean, since, like I said, we're all apparently just walking past the November election since it's irrelevant in Illinois. Apparently, that's what I sort of get. That's the feel I get from both parties, actually. But the question that's not asked. So what are the policy differences between, these, insider favorites I keep hearing about, lobbyist John Kelly or failed mob banker Ali G or Susanna Mendoza or some other, party reptile that you've heard from before. I mean, I'm sorry, what is the difference? How are things going to change exactly? What's the big policy divide that I'm missing?
I don't see it, Dan. And even if there were policy difference, the writing is on the wall for Chicago. I hate to be even more cynical than I have been, but at this point, the fiscal situation for Chicago is it's not correctable. The national press, again, is catching up to this. There's a wonderful short piece in the Washington Post, of all places, last week, pretty much declaring Chicago dead. I think the theme for us at Wire Points for Chicago is basically we're going to be chronicling the march towards Detroit for Chicago. That doesn't mean we're going to go into a formal bankruptcy like Detroit did, because I'm not even sure that a Chapter 9 bankruptcy would work for Chicago. By the way, that's one reason. But there's, if Annie Goldenboy came in and was mayor, all powerful and popular, I'm not sure what they could do about it at this point.
What that's interesting you say. I'm not even sure, even if Springfield wanted to greenlight a bankruptcy, which they won't want to do, not in an election year at least, that it may not work for Chicago. What do you mean?
Yeah, to make a bankruptcy work, you got to have a viable reorganization plan, and to do that, you need to own assets free and clear. So you have to have something to work with. And remember, Chicago hocked much of its future income. It literally sold off future sales tax revenue that's been used for working capital purposes. These structural obligations are so huge now, especially the pensions, which largely have to be honored. I mean, even if you believe in pension reform and cutting benefits, the gap is so large that you can't just throw these people out on the street. There's not going to be any federal bailout money here. Detroit's bankruptcy worked for some very lucky reasons. They had an excellent emergency manager. They stumbled upon $1 billion in assets they didn't know they had in the form of an art collection. So they had a lot going for them in that bankruptcy that we don't have here. And most importantly, by the way, one thing you should understand about this, that appointment of an emergency manager who's going to control the bankruptcy is key. Well, here in Illinois, you would have the same combine appointing that person, and they would attempt to use the bankruptcy to write in favoritism for themselves, just like they do on everything else. It was different in Michigan because there was a good governor, Republican-controlled legislature at the time that appointed the emergency manager and wrote that law for Michigan. We're not going to have that here.
I think if you don't know you have $1 billion art collection, that sort of speaks to the mismanagement of the enterprise. But we don't have. I'm not sure we have that, but we have BLM Brandon's gift shop, or graph shop, as I call it. Maybe we could get that valuated and see if that could be an asset we could use as part of the reorganization, or to borrow against, or something like this. I mean, but the real deal is that until the bond market seizes up such that bad actors like the city of Chicago can no longer borrow against tomorrow to pay for yesterday, then this will limp along, right?
Well, that day is, that's part of why I'm so pessimistic. That day is pretty much upon us. Remember, Goldman Sachs couldn't sell a Chicago bond offering last year, and now this new one that was only partially sold. They only sold the taxable portion of that bond, and that's really a different market. That goes in with corporate bonds, and it's sold to investors in Singapore or wherever. But they had to indefinitely postpone the normal tax-free big chunk of that bond because they couldn't sell it. And that bond crisis is here right now.
Well, boy, and you start thinking about what the General Assembly might authorize, like a city income tax, and people might want to take judicial notice of the state of affairs and get out while the getting's good, at least the corporate boundaries. You and your colleague John Klingner recently posted about IRS revenue that came out on Friday that just speaks to changes in basically interstate migration, 22-23. So they're, almost 3 years behind in terms of what the dynamic in real time is, but nonetheless, still pretty telling.
That's right. More bad news. This is it's unfortunate they lag this much, but every spring they come out with this data, which is unassailable because they know exactly where people are listing as the residents on the tax returns, and it's been a constant, huge outflow of people with their aggregate numbers, with their aggregate income leaving Illinois. 780,000 net taxpayers, counting the people that come in as well. Net taxpayers were lost out migration in the last 23 years, and that money adds up. It's just in the first year income of all those people. That's $94 billion of our tax base that has fled. They took $94 billion of 1 year's income with them. By the way, we're working on trying to add up the true total of their the lifetime value of those people. It's tricky to do, but it goes far beyond that $94 billion. So our tax base is fleeing, and we don't have room to raise taxes. I hope most people understand the only way to get out of this is by growing the tax base. We're doing the opposite.
Mark Lennon, founder of WirePoints, wirepoints.org, all things Illinois policy related. Thanks as always, Mark. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan. Take care.
Take care. And Mark joined us on Chicago's Morning Answer.
It's news, opinion, insight. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer. Don't miss In Grace with Pastor Jim Scudder Jr. Now heard on Sunday mornings at 7:30. Tune in and find hope as Jim Scudder explores God's Word and His world each Sunday morning right here on AM 560. The Answer.
Mike Lindell and the MyPillow employees want to thank you for your great support this past year. They want to make 2026 the best year ever. So to thank you, they are giving you free shipping on your entire order and wholesale pricing. So they are bringing back the mega sale. For example, the classic MyPillows, regularly $49.98, now only $14.98. Turn any mattress into the best mattress ever with the Made in the USA MyPillow My Mattress Topper and save up to $100. Get a set of MyPillow Giza Dream Sheets for as low as $29.98 or the 6-pack towel set for only $34.98. To get the best specials ever, go to MyPillow.com and use promo code LIBERTY or call 800-489-0201 and use promo code LIBERTY. These offers won't last long, so call 800-489-0201 or go to MyPillow.com and use promo code LIBERTY. Order now and your entire order ships absolutely free.
I'm attorney Stephen Leahy. If you're a business owner with unfiled tax returns, tax season is not your friend. This is when the IRS turns up the heat. They match 1099s. They review payroll filings. They compare bank deposits. And when returns are missing, they don't send you a warning. They take action. Penalties stack up fast. Liens become public. Bank levies can drain your account. I see it every year. Good business owners who waited too long, not because they're crooks, but because they were overwhelmed. Let me be clear, hiding makes it worse. Action makes it fixable. I help business owners get compliant, file what's missing, and negotiate from a position of strength, not fear. Don't wait for the next certified letter. Don't wait for a levy. Go to fightbacknow.com and sign up for my daily email. I'll tell you exactly what to do next, step by step. Or call me right now at 312-664-6649. Act now before the IRS acts first.
Hey Chicagoland, it's Jeff from Jeff Buys Your House. If you recently inherited a property, you're likely navigating a lot right now. Loss, family decisions, and maybe some difficult conversations. And now there's a house to figure out. Here's what we've learned from helping hundreds of families since 2007. Every inherited home situation is different, and we're not here to judge. We're here to help. Our veteran-led team has seen it all. Houses that need major repairs, properties full of a lifetime of belongings, and families that just want a simple solution so they can move forward. Here's what you need to know. You don't need to repair anything or clear anything out. We'll give you a straightforward cash offer with no obligation, and you choose the closing timeline. Simple, respectful, straightforward. If you need guidance on your next steps with an inherited property, we are here for you. Call 630-895-9530. That's 630-895-9530 or jeffbuysyourhouse.com.
At Terra Vista of Oak Brook Terrace, dementia care isn't just what we do, it's all we do. We specialize in caring for those with Alzheimer's and other types of dementia. We're on the forefront of dementia care with a barrier-free, stress-free environment, so residents can explore safely and feel at home. But what truly sets Terra Vista apart? Personalized care. We take the time to learn each resident's story, where they lived, their routines, former careers, even the names of family members. Anyone who interacts with your loved one can immediately make them feel comfortable and understood. We meet our residents right where they are. Residents stay strong and engaged with multi-sensory activities, music, art, horticulture, our beautiful 18,000 square foot outdoor space, and even a personal trainer. At Terra Vista, residents aren't defined by their dementia. We honor the whole person. Speak to an advisor or schedule a tour today at terravista.org. Again, that's terravista.org, and tell them AM560 sent you.
Why would you take your precious metal collections to some fly-by-night roadshow that rolls into town once a year? The only thing you need to do is follow the road to Fox Valley Coins and show your gold or silver to the team. Gold is at an all-time historical high, so don't keep sitting on your coin hoards or old jewelry that you've been saving to sell when the time is right. The time is right now. Prices have never been better on most collector and gold coins. Fox Valley Coins in Naperville is trying to keep up with demand. So they're paying the most ever on not only most gold coins in bars, but also those old coin collections. You might have scarce dates or higher grade coins, so take advantage of the record high market price and the demand now. Whether you're buying or selling, or just want to find out values, trust the team at Fox Valley Coins. Fox Valley Coins is on Route 59, just one light north of I-88 at the Naperville-Warrenville border. Family-owned integrity since 1981.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up at 8:08, we're going to talk to Stephen Wills from the Navy League Center for Maritime Strategy. He has some thoughts on how the U.S. Navy can clear the Strait of Hormuz, particularly with the support from Gulf states and some Western and Central European states, too, as we discussed yesterday. We'll talk to Stephen Wills about that at 8:08. It's now 8 o'clock on AM 560, WIND Chicago.
Iran will fight until complete victory. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. That's what a spokesman for Iran's top military command just said the day after Iran dismissed as fake news and psychological warfare. President Trump's claim Iran wants to badly make a deal to end the conflict, one he says will be good for everybody.
As good as if we went all the way and just literally annihilated the place, which if we don't have to do that, that would be a good thing, not a bad thing.
As Iran keeps counterattacking. Those explosions over Israel as air defenses shoot down missiles, but some got through, including
a 220-pound warhead that slammed into the heart of Tel Aviv, the explosion rocking the street and causing a significant amount of damage.
Fox's Trey Yingst in Tel Aviv.
Both the Israelis and the Americans are still taking the fight to the Iranian regime, launching new airstrikes over the weekend and into this week 4 of Operation Epic Fury, a new wave of strikes against the capital of Tehran and surrounding areas.
An American has been freed by the Taliban.
Held captive in Afghanistan for more than 400 days. Dennis Coyle of Colorado was abducted from his apartment in Kabul in January 2025. He was in the country conducting academic research when he was accused of violating Afghanistan's laws.
Well, that's Fox's Carly Shimkus. The Trump administration statement just out says Coyle was wrongfully detained, committed no crime, and was used as leverage. Could be another frustrating day at airports, plagued by hours-long security lines as more unpaid TSA agents skip work. Immigration agents have been deployed to some airports to help. Fox's Madison Scarpino is in Atlanta and says lines there are not as long this morning.
You know, it's unclear if it's a little bit shorter this morning because of ICE's presence here, who have been managing lines with crowd control, or if it's just because, you know, it's a slower day.
Today, Mark Wayne Mullen will be sworn in as the new Secretary of Homeland Security as talks continue in the Senate trying to fund the department. America's listening to Fox.
Good morning. It is 32 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560. The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the QC Kinetics newsroom. President Donald Trump is blaming former President Joe Biden's immigration policies for allowing the suspected killer of a Loyola University Chicago student last week to enter the country. Speaking to reporters yesterday, Trump called Sheridan Gorman's murder devastating, saying Jose Medina came into the U.S. during Biden's presidency.
This person came in through the open door policy of Joe Biden, and we have others. We're taking him out by the tens of thousands. We're doing a great job, but It's a shame. They've hurt our country.
Medina, who is a Venezuelan immigrant, was charged with the murder of the 18-year-old after she was shot and killed last Thursday near the pier at Toby Prince Beach. Trump said the incident shows that there's a need for ramped-up immigration enforcement efforts. An Oak Forest man is accused of killing his estranged wife. Brian Hernandez was denied pretrial release yesterday after he was charged with first-degree murder following the death of Estefania Abril Hernandez. Police say Hernandez strangled the victim with a vacuum power cord. Her body was found last Thursday in a near-vacant home in Villa Park. ICE officers are at O'Hare International Airport helping with the shortage of TSA agents. President Trump announced yesterday that he would be deploying federal immigration officers at airport security checkpoints during the government shutdown that has led to long lines. That move comes as hundreds of thousands of Homeland Security workers, including those from the TSA, U.S. Secret Service, and Coast Guard, have been working without pay since Congress failed to renew the DHS funding last month. Several TSA agents have either called in sick or quit their jobs. News is the service of Woodland Windows and Doors in Roselle. For over 52 years, Woodland has been transforming living spaces with Marvin Windows. Featuring styles ranging from modern to traditional, visit woodlandwindows.com today to get started. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes, but it's time now for the AM 560 Business Beat, a service of Signature Bank.
I'm Charles Payne, and this is the Fox Business Report.
There's another sign people are continuing to cook and eat at home. Smithfield Foods, which makes everything from Nathan's Famous hot dogs to Virginia spiral sliced ham, is reporting an upbeat quarter and year, and the stock is up 3%. Brent crude is back over $100 a barrel as investors monitor developments in the Iran conflict. Shares of Jefferies Financial Group are rallying following a report that Japan's Sumitomo Financial is considering a takeover of the investment bank. Ford is recalling more than 250,000 SUVs in the U.S. Software issues could result in the loss of the rear-view image and some driver assistance features. The recall includes Lincoln Navigator, Nautilus, Aviator, and Ford Explorers. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Jenny Cosola, invested in you.
Scott Jennings wonders if we'll see support.
Iran has fired ballistic missiles into a German military base in Jordan. So Iran continues to fire at its neighbors. You know, something I've been wondering, are we having any expectation that other countries are going to eventually get fed up with this and join in the military attacks against Iran?
The Scott Jennings Show. Weekdays at noon, right before Hugh Hewitt at 2 on AM 560. The Answer. Looking for some hope? Listen to Leading the Way with Dr. Michael Youssef on our sister station, AM 1160. Hope for your life. Weekday mornings starting at 8.
Rick Borick talks about the risk of being in the stock market right near retirement.
It's easy to drive around with no seatbelt on if you never think you're going to have an accident, right? And you go, well, it's never going to go down. I don't need protection for my portfolio. We're a big fan of getting those gains, but we're also a bigger fan of not taking huge losses.
Unleash your wealth, Saturday at 7 a.m. and 2 p.m. on AM 560, The Answer.
Why does Progressive love protecting truckers? Because truckers unite the world. Truckers unite candles and yoga instructors. Truckers unite fake plants with people who shouldn't own living plants. Truckers unite French press coffee makers with the most pretentious person you know. But truckers can't do any of this if they're not on the road. That's why Progressive now offers truckers even more protection on cargo with its enhanced Cargo Plus coverage. Get a quote in as little as 8 minutes at ProgressiveCommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Coverage subject to policy terms, limits, and conditions. Not available in California.
Following the attacks on 9/11/01, FDNY firefighter Daniel Foley assisted in the rescue and recovery efforts at Ground Zero. Daniel spent months and months searching for victims. Now, Daniel's death was the direct result of 9/11 related cancer. He leaves behind his wife, Carrie, and their children. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the family's home. Join us. Donate $11 a month to the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Go to their website, the letter T, the number 2, the letter T.org.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. 15 in, 20 out on the Edens from Lake Cook to Montrose. The Kennedy inbound from O'Hare to the Burn Interchange is 34 minutes. Outbound is 38. The express lanes hitting those brakes between Kimball Avenue and Augusta Boulevard. You've got 32 in, 28 out on the Ike from Wolf to the old post office. The Stevenson is very slow inbound between Harlem Avenue and Western Avenue, so we're looking at 40 minutes inbound from Veterans Memorial to Lakeshore. Outbound is 34. Really not bad at all on the Dan Ryan. Inbound is 15 minutes from 95th to the Burn Interchange. Outbound is 11. Stop and go northbound Lakeshore Drive between Bryn Mawr Avenue and Hollywood Avenue. This report is a service of Fox Valley Coins. This is a great time to bring in your scrap gold jewelry and sterling flatware. Cash or check offered on the spot. FoxValleyCoins.com. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now the latest forecast from the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today, expect a mix of clouds and sun with a high of 52. Tonight will be mostly cloudy with a low of 39. Tomorrow will be warmer with a mix of sun and clouds and a high of 68. Thursday will be very warm with a transition from sunshine to clouds, leading to a chance of afternoon showers and a heavy thunderstorm. The high on Thursday will reach 73. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Goldilocks, offering smart security systems to homes and businesses. Call Goldilocks at 708-889-5600.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft. So the latest update from CENTCOM Commander Admiral Brad Cooper, his Day 22 update, included this commentary on opening the Strait of Hormuz.
We also remain zeroed in on dismantling Iran's decades-old threat to the free flow of commerce throughout the Strait of Hormuz. For example, earlier this week, we dropped multiple 5,000-pound bombs on an underground facility located along Iran's coastline. The Iranian regime used the hardened underground facility to discreetly store anti-ship cruise missiles, mobile missile launchers, and other equipment that presented a dangerous risk to international shipping. We not only took out the facility, but also destroyed intelligence support sites and missile radar relays that were used to monitor ship movements. Iran's ability to threaten freedom of navigation in and around the Strait of Hormuz is degraded as a result, and we will not stop pursuing these targets.
It's degraded, but not sufficiently to, I guess, have confidence that to declare the strait open. Thus, this part of this ostensible negotiation that began yesterday and led President Trump to put the Iranians on a 5-day clock to try to come to some arrangement to achieve cessation of hostilities. This is what Trump said about the Strait.
Thank you.
What about the Strait of Hormuz? Who's going to be in control of that?
That'll be opened very soon if this works.
How soon? And who's in control of it? Will Iran still be able to control the flow of oil?
Be jointly controlled.
By who?
Maybe me. Maybe me.
You want the United States to be in control?
Me and the Ayatollah, whoever the Ayatollah is, whoever the next Ayatollah. Look, and there'll also be a form of a very serious form of a regime change. Now, in all fairness, everybody's been killed from the regime. They're really starting off. There's automatically a regime change. But we're dealing with some people that I find to be very reasonable, very solid. The people within know who they are. They're very respected. And maybe one of them will be exactly what we're looking for.
For more on this, pleased to be joined by Stephen Wills, navalist at the Navy League Center for Maritime Strategy. He was the chief engineer and executive officer of the USS Patriot. Stephen Wills, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, good morning, Dan. Happy to join you guys from Washington, D.C. today. Thanks.
Thank you. So the combination of what Admiral Cooper offered in his update about degrading Iran's ability to disrupt maritime traffic in the Strait, combined with Trump's hope that opening the Strait is going to be part of some sort of agreement that the U.S. comes to with the Iranians. Can you give us any perspective on what you think still needs to be done to put the Iranians in a position where they have to concede to the opening of the Strait?
No, that's a great question, Dan. Thank you so very much. So the Iranians have had 40 plus years to build up various defenses and capabilities along their part of the Strait of Hormuz, and that include a lot of things Admiral Cooper talked about in terms of cruise and ballistic missiles, coastal radar systems that enable them to attack merchant vessels that are going through the Strait of Hormuz. The other challenge out there that I ought to add in there, too, is mines. The Iranians have been known to possess a stockpile in the thousands of mines, everything from the sort of classic World War II mine with spikes on it that you run into, to more sophisticated bottom mines that lay on the bottom and explode based on a vessel's magnetic signature or acoustic sounds. So these could be a challenge. There have been some reports that the Iranians may have laid some mines. I'm still questioning that myself because I think that would have scared off all traffic from the Strait of Hormuz entirely, and there's still some vessels going through there yet. So however you look at this, it's still kind of a wicked problem, and Central Command no doubt wants to make sure that they've degraded as many of these Iranian capabilities as possible before they start talking about actually escorting ships through there, perhaps using U.S. Navy vessels. We did this once before, back in the late 1980s in the so-called tanker war, so it's not completely an unfamiliar prospect for the U.S. Navy to undertake.
So, yeah, on the mines themselves, because and then it's been reported that we have since destroyed all of their mine-placing ships, or most of them.
Yeah.
So that's number one. Number two, yeah, there's Iranian ships, oil tankers, and Russian-flagged oil tankers that are being allowed through to provide supply in these times, and that's with the assent of the United States, too. Besson talked about it this weekend on the Sunday Talkies. But if you're allowing those ships to be through, and there are mines, ostensibly you're providing information on where those mines are so they can navigate around them. And so then, what's really left? How, if you can remove the mines because the locations have been disclosed and they don't have any capacity to lay more mines, then doesn't that remove one of the threats?
I would certainly tend to agree. I'm going to guess that consider this, too. The rest of Iran's military has really underperformed in this conflict, with really the exception of ballistic and cruise missiles and drones. And that includes especially their Navy and all components of their Navy, including their vaunted Russian-made Kilo-class submarines, have not even gotten out of port before being destroyed. So I tend to think you're right there in that the number of mines that may or may not have been deployed is fairly small. And again, if mines were in the water in any numbers, the shipping companies would not even allow traffic through the Strait of Hormuz at all. And that includes Russian and Chinese and other shipping companies because they don't want to incur that kind of risk. So the mine threat may be very small. It may be known, like, don't sail over this latitude and longitude because we put some mines there. That should be easy enough to get around. And if the strait is open to some traffic, it can be open to everybody's traffic then. It's not blocked.
So go back to what you mentioned in the precedent you referenced in terms of escorting ships through, because there's been some argument among wonks about this idea of, even if you enlist allies in the Gulf and allies in Western and Central Europe, this idea of escorting ships is not really a viable, even medium-term strategy. Is that your view, or is yours different?
No, I would say it is possible to do this. We did this back in the 1980s before. True, the Iranians had a lot less missiles then. but there was also not then a very dedicated strike campaign against Iranian facilities to silence all their missile batteries and destroy drones, etc. So this is significant. You've also got the USS Tripoli Amphibious Ready Group on the horizon. That ship has got F-35B aircraft that would be very helpful in joining in an escort operation. So whatever this is, it's going to be a joint operation involving air and sea assets and probably some Air Force assets as well. We don't do things unless it's joint, and I think you can do this if Central Command is satisfied they've degraded the missile and drone threat significantly. U.S. Navy vessels have gained a lot of experience in shooting down missiles and drones at short notice during the recent Red Sea campaign against the Houthis. The Navy got really good at this. It's still very dangerous. I'm not discounting the danger or threats, but it is doable, certainly. And if you have a carrier strike group nearby, if you have the Tripoli Amphibious Ready Group, those folks can quickly respond to the shore site that fires a missile or fires a drone at ships that are being escorted. So it's not a good time to be the bad guys on shore because they're going to be seen and immediately counter-targeted, I think. So I think this is doable, provided CENTCOM gets a reasonable level of assurance that they've degraded those sites that have missiles and drones on the Iranian side of the Strait of Hormuz, and they verify there's not a mine threat. You at least have to make sure that you don't have that mine threat.
Well, and it would also seem illogical for the Iranians to attempt, if they had the capacity, to attempt to strike certainly a U.S. flagged ship going through the strait, because I mean we just got through this threat moment here from over the weekend that if you don't stop with the meddling in the strait, then we're going to turn out the lights in Tehran. Yes. So, that threat is ever present if they can't come to a deal this week. So it would seem to me that that's another way to get them to stand whatever they have down with respect to the strait.
The other thing I'll add, too, is that I tend to discount the mine business somewhat, because if you assume the regime has logical actors on it and they are dependent upon the movement of oil out of the Strait of Hormuz to fund their regime, whatever regime comes next, as President Trump said, we don't know, they need to quickly reopen the strait to traffic once there's some kind of agreement. If you've got mines in the water, that's a long, messy process to disarm and to sweep those. That would slow down the process of getting the strait fully reopened, and that would slow down the ability of the Iranians to start making some money off the movement of oil again, too. So I tend to scratch my head and say I don't think the mines are there because that would be too hard for them to deal with that problem and reassure the shipping companies that it's okay to go through.
Just the nature of what this campaign tells us about the evolving nature of conflict and how these campaigns are prosecuted. There was a CEO of a drone company on with Maria Bartiromo over the weekend. Yeah. And he was talking about the drone capability, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, which would have cost millions or hundreds of thousands per system. And now, because of innovation and technology, the price point is coming down such that he said eventually we're going to have one drone for every soldier in the military. Is that the future of warfighting?
I can't fully speak to it from the ground component, but I think you're headed there very much in the maritime world. And the Navy's been talking about this for a long time in terms of what they call manned and unmanned teaming. So I think in the future you're going to see every warship, submarine, and aircraft go into battle with a series of drone or unmanned platforms around it that enable it. They become extra weapon carriers. They become additional sensors. They become electronic warfare packages that help to deflect enemy missiles out of the way. So I think you're going there in terms that no warship in the future might set sail unless it has a phalanx of unmanned warships around it. So I think we're kind of headed in that direction, but you're still going to see a manned component. And everything the Navy has said so far has said we're still committed to the idea that no one pulls the trigger unless a human says yes, at least offensively. Defensively, we've been here for a while. In one of my jobs, I served on an Aegis cruiser using the Aegis combat system. If you put that thing in auto mode, it will continue to launch missiles, fire guns, and do things to defend the ship until it's empty. And it's very good at that. So we've done the unmanned defense thing for a long time. We're moving into the unmanned offense thing. And I think you're going to continue to see this development of manned and unmanned systems working together to better enable all of our military operations.
Stephen Wills, navalist at the Navy League Center for Maritime Strategy, was chief engineer and executive officer of the USS Patriot. Stephen Wills, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate your insights.
Absolutely, Dan. Happy to join you guys today, and always happy to talk to people in Chicago. Thanks.
Thanks very much. And he joined us on Chicago's Morning Answer.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
You know what really keeps me up at night? It's the criminals feel more and more bold. They have no fear of any consequences because there are none. So I did what anyone with a family should do. I called Goldilocks. They're not just some cookie-cutter security company. Goldilocks has been protecting Chicagoland homes and businesses for 4 decades, 40 years. And they actually listen. Their technician comes out to the house. He takes a look at what you need to make your house a smart home with a security system you can monitor from anywhere. It's built specifically for me and my family. Motion sensors, smart locks, cameras, monitoring, all customized. I don't trust anybody in Illinois to protect my family. I do it, and I did it by calling Goldilocks. I trust Goldilocks to keep my house, my property, and my family safe. Tell them Sean Thompson sent you, and Goldilocks will include 3 months free monitoring with any new installation. Call Goldilocks at 708-889-5600. That's 708-889-5600. Or visit them online at GoldilocksInc.com.
Raise your hand if chronic pain is making you feel old, older than you actually are. Ongoing pain can really turn your golden years upside down. But here's the good news. QC Kinetics patients right here in Chicagoland are getting relief, feeling younger, jumping back into life full speed. And it didn't happen in an operating room. I know this because I met some of the patients. Dr. Caravelli and QC Kinetics medical professionals use the latest regenerative treatments backed by real science. Treatments that take the tiny, powerful healing tools inside your body and concentrate them right where you need relief. That's how Mike is training for a marathon. Patrick's golf game is on fire again, and Andrea is back in her garden. These are real QC Kinetics patients. The sooner you start, the sooner inflammation and pain eases, and the sooner joint damage slows down. So don't wait. Find out if you're a candidate for QC Kinetics regenerative treatments, and tell them I sent you when you do. Your visit and consultation are free. Call now, 312-827-6261. That number again, 312-827-6261. Call QC Kinetics at 312-827-6261.
Hey, sorry to hear your mom passed away.
Thanks.
A lot of work to do settling her assets?
Actually, she prepared a living trust. Makes this process simple.
Yeah, I set up a will for my kids. Should make it easy.
Well, unless your assets are small, your kids will have to go to court to settle your will.
So, where do I get a living trust?
Nauman and Associates. They prepare wills and trusts for a flat fee. No surprises.
Nauman and Associates in Elk Grove Village?
That's right. NALawGroup.com. Call 847-593-8777.
Did you know most remodeling mishaps start before construction even begins? Here's something else you should know. At Forever Remodeling, we do things differently. Every kitchen, bathroom, and basement project starts with smart planning, detailed 3D designs, a clear scope of work, and accurate pricing, all sorted out before you get started. No surprises, no stress, just beautiful results. Done right the first time. Visit foreverremodeling.com. That's the number 4, EVER, remodeling.com. And schedule your free in-home consultation today.
AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here, and boy, it's funny how this always turns out this way. You know, like when media types leave the media to go work for a politician, it always ends up that they work for one of the neo-Marxists. You know, we've seen this in Chicago for generations. And if they go from, say, a legacy media organization to another media organization, it's interesting what a tell that turns out to be. The latest example, formerly of CBS, Scott MacFarlane will now be doing Scott MacFarlane Reports. That's the same great journalism you've come to expect from Scott MacFarlane. Yeah. He'll be now doing it for Midas Touch, which is a podcaster, left-wing podcaster, that was originally started as an anti-Trump PAC and morphed into a podcast. That's who he's working for.
Some news to share, and it's good news. I have a new platform for my independent, unfiltered reporting. Effective immediately, I'm chief Washington correspondent for the Midas Touch Network. And beginning in about 2 or 3 weeks, I'll begin as anchor of a daily program called Scott MacFarlane Reports. And the Midas Touch and I share the same North Star of communicating, that when you have news to break or something important to explain, just get to it. Straight to the point. As soon as you open the camera and open the mic.
Strip away the veneer and let's just deal with the facts, right? Scott MacFarlane? For those who don't distinguish between these D.C. press corps functionaries, and I completely understand it because there's not much to distinguish. Different name, same program. This was Scott MacFarlane talking to colleague Chuck Todd. Chuck Todd, you remember he was the political director for NBC News and then Meet the Press. So he came from politics, right, working for leftist senator in Ohio, to media. So, but whatever. It's always left to left, right? Media, the revolving door, media to politics and politics to media. It's funny how they always wind up with their fellow travelers, and then they're exposed as being a fellow traveler, more to the point. Well, Scott MacFarlane, just get to the facts. Like Scott MacFarlane's compelling analysis, unique take on the attempted Trump assassination in Butler. You remember this? Just so you know, in case somehow you happen upon Scott MacFarlane Reports, or one of your friends does because they're a lefty who likes to just listen to anti-Trump tirades all day, which you get at the Midas Touch. This is who Scott MacFarlane is.
For those of us there, it was such a horror because you saw an emerging America. And it wasn't the shooting, Chuck. I got diagnosed with PTSD within 48 hours. I got put on trauma leave, not because I think of the shooting, but because you saw it in the eyes, the reaction of the people. They were coming for us. If he didn't jump up with his fist, they were going to come kill us. I know.
Right. The real story of that attempted assassination of President Trump on July 13th in Butler, Pennsylvania, and the killing of Corey Campiatore, the real story is Trump supporters who were going to kill Scott MacFarlane and the trauma he suffered on that day. By the way, you don't get diagnosed with PTSD in 48 hours. Just a little FYI, since I know Scott MacFarlane is really fact-intensive and he just lays it out there, strips away the veneer to get to the honest to good truth. That's who Scott MacFarlane is. The big story at Butler, what happened to Scott MacFarlane? And ravenous Trump supporters that were going to kill members of the press corps. Right. Okay. Coming up at 8:38, it's been a minute. In our latest installment of Campus Beat, speaking of the revolving door of left to left, we got a couple of stories that are pretty interesting. One is a study of sociological research papers over 60 years, the ideological bent of said. Another story, in keeping with our current conflict with the Iranians, is the children of the Ayatollah, the regime, the children of the Khamenei regime in America on campus. 8:38. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It is 33 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the QC Kinetics newsroom. A Venezuelan migrant is accused of killing a Loyola University Chicago freshman. When speaking to the story, Congressman Mike Lawyer says that the incident shows why local governments need to cooperate with ICE.
This is why local jurisdictions refusing to cooperate, refusing to accept the detainer requests are wrong.
Sheridan Gorman was a resident of New York who moved to Chicago late last year to go to school. A suburban man is going to federal prison for scheming to fraudulently obtain more than $3.3 million in small business loans and grants under the CARES Act. Francisco De Festano was sentenced to 6.5 years after pleading guilty to a federal wire charge. And a food delivery robot has gone viral after it crashed into a CTA bus shelter and smashed the glass. The robot's company, Serve Robotics, says they will pay for replacement of the glass, and they're investigating to ensure that things like this will not happen again. News is a service of American Beam and Steel structural repair licensed contractors for your home and business. Search for American Beam and Steel online to schedule your consultation directly with the owner, Mark. American Beam and Steel. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560, The Answer.
Larry Elder explains the reason we're here.
The reason we're here is because we have an enemy that has been chanting death to America for 47 years. The enemy determined by their own admission to develop a nuke. They admitted they had enough to build 10 bombs. Is there any confidence that you have that had these people had a nuclear weapon, they would not use it?
The Larry Elder Show, weeknights at 8, right before Sean Hannity at 10 on AM 560. The Answer.
Chicagoland certified financial planning professional Tim Stearns discusses taxes in retirement.
Most people are paying more in taxes and keeping less of their money to live and do what they enjoy. That's why we've put out the Retirement Tax Bill Calculator online. You can see with your own eyes just how much you might be overpaying. It's a valuable tool, $500 value, but we made it free for you to view and run your own numbers at MVPCFP.com. That's MVPCFP.com.
To run your retirement tax bill calculator, go to MVPCFP.com. Investment advisory services offered through Cornerstone Securities, LLC.
Welcome to another edition of Tuesdays with Tim. My friend Tim Stearns, a certified financial planner with TJ Stearns Financial Planning in Arlington Heights. Tim, how are you? Welcome back.
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Tim, for more than 25 years, you've been helping clients achieve financial security and peace of mind, which has to be rewarding. Doing it a long time. You've got a lot of success stories on a daily basis, I'm sure. Can you give our listeners an example of a family that you've helped out recently that comes to mind?
We had a 65-year-old call who had been listening to your show, and he called us and he said, he wanted to know, do I have enough assets? I'm really tired of working. I'm burnt out, etc. And he didn't know if he had the resources, and he didn't have the knowledge to get to the answer of that. So we helped him prepare a Protect and Grow blueprint. And by doing that, we helped position his money for income and cut back on the risks that they had in their current portfolio.
Thank you, Tim. If you're in your 50s or 60s, I want you to speak with my friend Tim Stearns, TJ Stearns Financial Planning. Tim will help you structure and optimize your savings to prepare for 20 to 30 years of enjoyable retirement. Call Tim today to schedule your free consultation and get your free Protect and Grow blueprint. Call 1-800-640-2256. Again, that number, 800-640-2256. Tell him I sent you when you call Tim at 800-640-2256.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Destination Retirement with Robert Kuhn. Tune in Sunday mornings from 11 to 12 for Destination Retirement with Robert Kuhn, sponsored by Kuhn Capital Partners in Oak Brook.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. 15 in, 19 out on the Edens from Lake Cook to Montrose. The Kennedy is 31 in, 37 out from O'Hare to the Byrne Interchange. Real slow inbound on the Eisenhower between North Avenue and the Tri-State. Now outbound, you have an accident just past First Avenue, and the delays begin right around Cicero Avenue. So it's 31 minutes both ways from Wolf to the old post office. 35 in, 32 out on the Stevenson from Veterans Memorial to Lakeshore. 17 in on the Dan Ryan from 95th to the Burn Interchange. Outbound is 11, hitting those brakes northbound Lakeshore Drive, heading towards Hollywood Avenue, and stop and go northbound on Route 53 between the Jane Addams and Northwest Highway through that construction zone. This report is sponsored by AutoZone. Get in the zone, the free AutoZone Fix Finder service can help troubleshoot the likely cause of your pesky check engine light for free and help you save time and money down the road. Restrictions apply. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now the latest forecast from the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today, expect a mix of clouds and sunshine with a high of 52. Tonight will be mostly cloudy with a low of 39. Tomorrow will be warmer with a combination of sun and clouds, reaching a high of 68. Thursday is set to be very warm, transitioning from sunny skies to clouds with a chance of a few afternoon showers and a heavy thunderstorm. The high temperature will be 73. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
'Cause they got the beat, the campus beat, the campus beat. Yeah, the campus beat.
Yeah, a couple of topics to pour over in this installment of Campus Beat. The children of the mullahs in Tehran finding their way to prestigious academic positions in institutions of alleged higher learning in America. Like Ali Larijani's daughter. Ali Larijani, who is the national security point man for the Khamenei regime, who was taken out in a bomb strike last week. She went back to Iran to praise her father and talk about the unity of the Iranian people against the American-Israeli campaign. She had previously been employed at Emory University. New York Post has a good piece on this, as do organizations of Iranian dissidents who follow the children of regime leaders. Fatima Larijani is her name. She is a medical doctor who taught at Emory University, Atlanta. She was at the school's prestigious Winship Institute until the university parted ways with her in January following pressure from Iranian dissidents. For example, Jonathan Sayah is an Iranian analyst at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. He said about people like Fatima Larijani, I would think that there would be a security risk as Iranian academics have been critical in forming public opinion on the left in the United States, essentially deceiving liberals into thinking that the regime is more progressive while it's still advancing the same hardline agenda. Yeah, hardline agenda like killing somewhere, the estimates are between 35 and 50,000 of its own citizens back in January during the street protests, right? That's a good example. There are several others that have been identified here. Leila Khatami is the daughter of the former president, Mohammad Khatami. She's an academic at Union College. Isa Hashemi is the son of an Iranian cabinet member under this, regime. Well, the Khamenei regime, such as it, currently exists. He's at the Chicago School of Professional Psychology. Zainab Hajarian is the daughter of an intel officer, University of Massachusetts. Zahra Damad, daughter of Ayatollah Saeed Mustafa Amanabadi. She's at University of Illinois in Urbana. The son of the medical minister, Ehsan Nobakit, is at George Washington University. It's not surprising that 2 of the 6 would be in Illinois, since, of course, we're a university system that welcomes people like Bill Ayers and Bernadine Dorn and Jimmy Kilgore. So it makes sense, but maybe that's a bad idea, per what our friend from the Foundation of the Defense of Democracies had to say. And it's not just him, it's also, as I said, a human rights activist for the Alliance Against Islamic Regime of Iran Apologists, catchy, had this to say about going back to Larijani. The daughter of Ali Larijani came to the United States for cancer treatment, the very country her family system condemns, where millions of Iranians are denied access to basic health care and opportunity. And yet we're providing a path for her to get medical treatment that is denied her compatriots at the hands of her father when they're not being killed by the regime outright. And we're going to give her access to a high-quality education and a sinecure at a leading university. The silliness of these policies, really. I mean, in addition to, we know, we've seen this before, we talked about the Chinese Communist Party's Confucius Institutes and American colleges, and we're talking about, frankly, the Qataris and the money they pour into American universities and the extension campuses in Doha and so forth, and whether or not we could be providing outright enemies of America or on-again, off-again friends, sensitive information through research institutions, through, again, these academies that would compromise America in some material way. It seems very reckless, doesn't it? 312-642-5600 to give us a call or text. But again, what have these institutions become as we talk about the state of our mediating institutions? This was an interesting study that was done. The ideological orientation of academic social science research from 1960 to 2024. 64 years of looking at social science research. These are researchers at Oxford University. From the abstract, the study looked at 600,000 English language social science abstracts published between 1960 and 2024 to estimate the long-run ideological orientation of disciplinary research output. This is one of those summaries that explains what happened to the classical liberal education at the higher ed level, what happened to the social sciences, why Shakespeare and other great authors that produced the Western Civ's canons are no longer on syllabi. LLMs were applied to each abstract using a fixed 2025 ideological spectrum. 5 key findings emerged. First, roughly 90% of politically relevant social science articles leaned left. 90% of 600,000 studies published over 64 years. You think that had an impact on the quality of education and the culture on campus over that intervening 6-decade period? It's like when we asked the question, going back to our friend Scott McFarlane, who just moved from CBS News to a formally leftist outlet podcast. Do you think if, since we know from Gallup that over the last 60 years, approximately the same time period, members of the so-called Gang of 500, the D.C. Press Corps, voted between 84 and 92% for the Democrat candidate for President of the United States? So do you think if 84 to 92% of the D.C. Press Corps had been voting for the Republican candidate for president over the same period, do you think the news coverage would have been different? Do you think America's understanding of our politics would be different? And so here, what are all these people with BAs in one of the social sciences? Do you think that their understanding of economics, everything from, economics to English lit to sociology, all of the social sciences. Do you think their understanding and perspective on the salient issues of the day would be different if 90% of 600,000 studies promulgated by academics in the social sciences had leaned, as they say, left? 90% of politically relevant social science articles leaned left, and when they say lean left, that's a charged phrase too. That could be very euphemistic. And the mean political stance of every social science discipline was left of center every year during that period. Second, all disciplines showed leftward movement between 1990 and 2024. Well, that's the rise of political correctness, and starting with speech codes and so forth, and ending with, at least for this time period, no-go zones for Jews on campus, just for one illustration. And so you won't be surprised, given this backstory, illustrations of what the universities are, and a little bit of background, in terms of one piece of information that helps to explain how they went from where they were to where they are today. When you have a showdown between two lesbians of different stripes, no doubt, at a recent meeting of the California State University Board of Trustees, arguing, as they did, about the allowance of boys to play girls' sports, California State Universities. That august body met, and here's, go based on their identities as, per leftist orthodoxy. Here's how that went. First one, and then the other. As I said, they come from a little bit different perspectives in terms of the definitional piece of this.
My name is Amanda Covatana. I'm a longtime lesbian activist and graduate of San Jose State, which is now in violation of Title IX, as I witnessed at 2 home games of the volleyball team. I urge the university to stop violating Title IX and stop the lawsuit. Men identifying as women are in violation of sex-based rights and will not win based on claims of gender identity. The violation of the female sex category has already had a detrimental impact on the lives of women and girls. It has compromised lesbian public spaces and the integrity of our lesbian identity. Lesbians do not have penises. This is not an LGBTQ civil rights issue. It is a male privilege issue at the expense of women and girls. Thank you.
Thank you. So an old hippie lesbian who went to San Jose State doesn't like a dude on the San Jose women's team. I remember that whole controversy, women's volleyball team. And some of the other teams in the conference didn't either, some of the other players. They were shamed, and including some of the players on San Jose State who didn't like it. So that's one lesbian perspective. Here's another lesbian perspective. Interestingly, an assistant sociology professor, the product of the scholarship that has been produced over the last 60 years from all of those social science academics. Her name is Jamie O'Quinn, and here's her perspective on lesbians with penises.
And the idea that I have to get up here and say that trans women are women and that's what I have to use my time to do is absurd. Shame on you. Shame on all of you. And shame on you for using lesbian politics as a front for your transphobia, because this lesbian has had plenty of girlfriends with penises.
So just a comment.
That's a very robust discussion, isn't it? This lesbian has had many girlfriends with penises. I don't know if there's a pithier summary of where higher education currently stands than that one. Dan Proft, Chicago's Morning Answer.
The more you listen, the more you'll know. This is Chicago's Morning Answer. Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Safety. It's so important at your industrial facility. You need to keep your personnel safe and meet OSHA requirements. One problem with your ladders, platforms, or safety guards, and you could be facing costly fines. Vans Industrial helps you meet OSHA standards to keep your employees safe.
Hi, I'm Dave Van Camp, president of Vans Industrial. As a business owner, I realize the importance of keeping my employees safe, and I'm here to offer my expertise. Vans Industrial is a specialty contractor uniquely equipped to design, fabricate, and install safety equipment, including walkways, handrails, stairways, and machinery guards. Our Vans Industrial team can inspect existing systems, engineer solutions, fabricate quality goods, and install them with trained pros, all making a safer environment for your employees.
Call 833-VANS-IND for a free inspection of your facility. Interested in what else they do? Visit vansindustrial.com. That's VANSindustrial.com. Quality craftsmanship since 1964. At Signature Bank, going the distance for business banking customers is what we do every day. We understand that business owners have a strategic mission, a drive to succeed, a plan for growth, and don't have time to wait for a bank to respond. With Signature Bank, you not only have a banking partner that has roots right here in Chicago, but our decisions are made locally too. Signature Bank knows that when you have a question or problem about your business, you want answers. You need someone who will pick up the phone or respond to your text. You need someone who is always there for you. That's Signature Bank. We are a team that wants to get to know you and your business. Want to be Signature Bank's next success story? Give us a call today at 773-467-5630 or visit us online at signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender.
Let me ask you something. Does your garage floor look bad? Covered in salt, cracked, or stained from the winter's brutal blast? Well, I've got a fix for you so you can start enjoying your garage this spring. Contact my good friends at Level 10 Coatings. Level 10 brought my garage floor from dirty and gross to showroom, shiny new in just one day. Level 10 Coatings can do the same for you. A quick and easy fix, permanent durable solution. Guaranteed to never chip or peel. Get it done now so you can enjoy your garage this spring and summer. Schedule your free quote today and mention me, Amy, for $500 off. Visit level10coatings.com. That's level, the number 10, coatings.com. Level10coatings.com or call 855-510-2628. Again, that's 855-510-2628. Level 10 Coatings, your premier concrete coating experts.
This is Albert Mohler for townhall.com. Portland, Oregon has just made itself ground zero for polyamory. Polyamory is the word that Americans are going to have to recognize more frequently. It refers to different kinds of love, different kinds of relationships. It can refer to same-sex or heterosexual relationships. It can be between 3, 4, 5, well, you count them, people. Portland has just decided to include legal protection for polyamorous relationships and what they call polyamorous families. How's that for an oxymoron? Now, I don't think there's going to be a mad dash to polyamorous situations in most of the country. I think what you're seeing here is the deliberate destabilization of marriage itself. This is part of a bigger strategy of those on the left who want to subvert a biblical view of marriage as central to our own civilizational project. They want to destroy any commitment to marriage as the union of a man and a woman. They want to destabilize the family. They want to do all of this, period. What starts in Portland, it doesn't stay in Portland.
AM 560, The Answer.
I'll tell you what, here's another product of, I'm guessing, I don't know for certain, another product of the social sciences. The mayor of Albany, New York, hey, that's their state capital, don't you know? Her name is Dorsey Applers. She was asked a question about how she plans to tackle Albany's city debt. And you think you get some creative answers from BJ, BLM Brandon. Listen to this one, and please, won't you count the mixed metaphors with me?
Mayor, looking long term, what structural changes need to happen to prevent Albany from facing similar financial issues again?
That's a great question, and that's why we're pulling together that team, that interdepartmental team that will really go under the hood, open up the cabinets, really get into the weeds on our budget, the process, some of our systems. It is government. There's a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of systems, and sometimes those systems do not work. And so you have to get under the hood to first understand what's not working. And so that team in short order will start the process of examining all of those things to then in turn provide me with recommendations on how we improve those systems to prevent something like this from happening moving forward.
Yeah, you're going to want to buy those Albany bonds right after you pick up some Chicago bonds, as we were talking about with Mark Lennon earlier. The way you tackle a debt crisis is you pull together an interdepartmental team to go under the hood, to open up the cabinets, and to get into the weeds. And then you make recommendations to some nitwit that the people installed there who doesn't know the first thing about the first thing. That's fun. Interdepartmental team to go under the hood, open up the cabinets, and get into the weeds. Boy, I'll tell you, that's stringing together some cliches right there. That's professional. One other note. This Atlantic piece about Janet Mills, the would-be, she's running for Senate in Maine. She's the governor. She's got the primary against the guy with the Nazi tattoo because that's their party. An octogenarian, potential freshman for Senate. And, the reform Nazi to face off against Susan Collins. She was asked about her defense of Biden's health. She was one of those who came out after the disastrous debate and did the whole, he's robust, he hasn't lost a step, he's sharp as ever, he's an intellectual dynamo. Dr. Jill says he's still a tiger in the sack, all of that stuff. They had a meeting where they went under the hood, they opened up the cabinets, they got into the weeds, and he's fine. Her response to that was, well, I didn't want to pile on. Oh, I mean, it's so, empathetic of her. I didn't want to pile on with people telling the truth. I didn't want to pile on with Americans who were seeing what they were seeing and hearing what they were hearing, and were told that their eyes and ears were lying to them. It's going to be an interesting cycle between now and November around the country, if not in Illinois. Thank you for joining us on another edition of Chicago's Morning Answer. Back with more tomorrow. It's now 9 o'clock on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
An American hostage freed in Afghanistan. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News, and Dennis Coyle being flown to Texas after the U.S. State Department says he was wrongfully detained, committed no crime.